With Boruto 2 Blue Vortex finally here, better known to fans as the Boruto time skip, there might be some of you guys who have been sleeping on the Boruto manga for the last 7 years and you want to get caught up so you can join in on the hype that's been picking up with Boruto's second manga, Boruto 2 Blue Vortex. Well, if you wanted an in-depth review of the manga to get caught up, that's exactly what we're going to do in this video, and we'll also be including information added via the physical copies of the manga that you can't get if you only read using the Viz Media app or the Manga Plus app, since a lot of that info adds to the world building and answers some of your questions like why are the villains so powerful in Boruto. We'll also be exploring the main themes of Boruto Naruto Next Generations, which are the bonds of parents and children, the question of where does science fit in the world of shinobi, and what does it mean to break away from the familiar bonds and expectations to forge your own path. So without further ado, let's dive into the first manga arc of Boruto, the versus Momoshiki Arc. This arc in the eyes of quite a few fans is one of the weaker arcs of the manga, largely because it retells the Boruto movie. However, the manga version of the story actually adds in extra important details that you can't get just by watching the movie. We open up the arc with the ominous flash forward sequence where Boruto versus Kawaki has occurred, and we see a 16-year-old Boruto staring down Kawaki amongst all the rubble of the Hidden Leaf Village all around them and the Hokage monument being destroyed, and the two are preparing to continue their battle in this dystopian future that is packed with symbolism. Kawaki states that the age of the shinobi is over and is battling Boruto in the remains of the strongest of the ninja villages and on top of the destroyed faces of the Hokage monument, almost as if Kishimoto's longtime assistant Mikio Ikimoto, who now draws Boruto's manga, wanted to show the duo battling on the graveyard of the shinobi world itself, given just what the faces of the Hokage monument meant for the previous generations of the Hidden Leaf Village. We then shift over to Boruto giving us the transition monologue where he tells us that this is his story and that the story of the boy who wanted to be Hokage was now over, but due to his father being the Hokage, he's always going to be part of his story, and that at the start of Boruto's story isn't just his story alone, it's the story of father and son. And Boruto tells us that at the very start he's a bit of a spoiled brat, but as we'll see as the story progresses, while he's definitely a brat, he does grow out of that phase pretty quickly as the peaceful era around him slowly becomes more violent and forces him to grow up. However, for now, he's a spoiled brat who basically went from having his father at home all the time to play with him and train him to that same father is now Hokage of the village and is struggling to balance the duties of being Hokage with the duties of being a husband and a father, and as a result, his oldest son's beginning to act out. That being said, boiling Boruto's character down to just being a brat is pretty disingenuous. Just from the opening mission where he's fighting against the panda, we get our first signs that Boruto is a lot more like his genius grandfather Minato than his biological father Naruto. Boruto uses 3 shadow clones as diversions while his original body is meeting with his team, Sarada and Mitsuki, and this is a pretty big deal. Naruto didn't fully grasp the concept of using shadow clones to gather intel until he got to the Akatsuki suppression arc, and as we were told in Naruto Part 1, the multi-shadow clone jutsu Boruto performed is a Jonin level jutsu due to the toll it takes on the body. We see Team 7 make light work out of the pandas, showing that while they might have been doing simple D and C rank missions for now, each member of that team is clearly above Chunin level, and it's after Boruto sees the usage of the Shinobi Gauntlet that things really get interesting. You see, the Shinobi Gauntlet is just one of the dozen types of ninja tools that have been created in this era, and these experimental gauntlets allow for non-Kekkei Genkai Jutsu to be sealed inside of them, which Konohamaru demonstrates by shooting off a Rasengan, and even shows that hidden jutsu like the Nara clan's Shadow Possession Jutsu can be stored inside the gauntlet, with the benefit of it being a shinobi using this gauntlet can perform jutsu they haven't been mastered or taught, and do so without having to use their own chakra, but there's a catch. The ninja tools are still in their experimental phase, and only a select few shinobi like Konohamaru are allowed to actively use them. While Boruto is initially intrigued by this device, his curiosity has been put on the back burner so he can speak to his father Naruto Boruto, and it's there that we see the tension build between father and son. It starts with Boruto disrespecting the Hokage position by suggesting Naruto would leave a shadow clone in the Hokage office, something that Naruto gets offended by, and he gets annoyed with Konohamaru when Boruto shows his blatant disregard for the most important aspect of being a shinobi, which is teamwork. Instead, Boruto's more focused on boasting about his own individual skills, which are very impressive because he states that he's already mastered 3 changes in chakra nature despite only being 12, which for reference, that's 1 more chakra nature than Sasuke had at the same age. And as Naruto's manga tells us, only Jonin are expected to have 2 or more chakra natures. So just off of that alone, we see Boruto is indeed a genius like his grandfather. However, unlike his grandfather and even his own father, Boruto, despite all his genius that he shows, he has a major character flaw, which is that he doesn't understand the value of hard work, which is something that the Naruto series creator Masashi Kishimoto warned us about back when Boruto's manga was about to begin, stating that Boruto, while he is a smart kid who figures out everything super fast and he skips the basics, wherever there's a shortcut, he either finds it or he makes his own shortcut, which in of itself, that's impressive, but taking this approach leads him not knowing the fundamentals, which is something that for all of Boruto's genius will come back to plague him more than once when we get into Boruto Part 1. This trait of his isn't just limited to learning things like ninjutsu either. It even extends to video games where he's using cheat codes to level up faster and get exclusive weapons that his friends don't have, which makes him confused for all his genius when he sees that his friends Inojin and Shikadai are turned off with the prospect of playing with the cheater. It goes back to him not understanding the value of hard work, which by extension leads to him not understanding his father and failing to realize why Naruto sent a shadow clone to the 10th birthday of his sister Himawari, where the shadow clone ends up dropping the birthday cake. Due to this, it leads to Boruto disrespecting both his father and his grandfather by saying Naruto was lucky to not have his father alive because being the child of a Hokage is something that sucks, which leads to Hinata crying, and we even see Naruto by extension collapse in exhaustion after the shadow clone breaks. Now, this one moment has been very controversial with fans over the years. The common question is, why doesn't Naruto use shadow clones to do the work in the Hokage office? And I'll answer it briefly. Naruto does use shadow clones to carry out ribbon cutting ceremonies and attend different meetings, and even uses shadow clones to train Boruto, as we saw in the opening chapter of Naruto Gaiden. But when it comes to the actual work of the Hokage office, Naruto refuses to cut corners by having shadow clones for 2 big reasons. The first is that Naruto believes that he, as a Hokage during a time of peace, should be able to keep up with the paperwork on his own without resorting to tricks such as that, because the first 5 Hokages were Hokage during a time of open warfare, and even when Kakashi took over, he still kept up on the paperwork despite overseeing the transition and the demilitarization of the 5 major nations and overseeing the tech boom that we currently have in Boruto. The second reason is one we learned from Naruto Retsuden, a story set later on in the Boruto timeline where Naruto compares himself to his father and thinks that using shadow clones to do paperwork is something his father would never do, and as a result it leads to Naruto working several days on end without sleeping in his office, to a point where his wife Hinata has to bring him food from home and give him a change of clothes because Naruto gets so locked in that he doesn't do either one of those things, which in of itself leads to exhaustion. Mental exhaustion isn't the same type of exhaustion you get from physical exertion, particularly for someone like Naruto who's never fared well when it comes to things that require the mind, whereas he's excelled in all things physical. It's for that reason that Naruto turns down Shikamaru's offer to stay in the Hokage office to finish up the paperwork so Naruto can rest and spend time with his family. However, things aren't going to stay peaceful forever because Sasuke shows up looking for Naruto with urgent information regarding Kaguya's clan. The threat of beings who are more powerful than Kaguya that Sasuke had to spend the last few years chasing down has unfortunately borne fruit, and we learned that Sasuke ended up fighting and barely escaping from a duel of Otsutsuki who he fought inside of Kaguya's dimension when he retrieved her scroll. The one who he mainly engaged in combat was Kenshiki, a big burly fighter who's able to manipulate his chakra into various weapons and is fast enough to keep up with the fatigued Sasuke, even when Sasuke is using his lightning release as a cloak to amp up his speed and reflexes. Which, as for why Sasuke's fatigued here, it's worth noting that Sasuke tells us in chapter 708 of Naruto Gaiden that entering into Kaguya's time-space dimensions requires an enormous amount of his chakra, and it takes him a while to fully use his ocular powers after entering into those time spaces. This is why Sasuke ultimately has to retreat after he sees Momoshiki call out Kenshiki, because Sasuke was having having a bit of a time with Kenshiki, but the idea of fighting another Otsutsuki whose powers he doesn't truly know, it was too much of a danger, which led to Sasuke making the intel he gathered a priority instead of continuing to fight, therefore he retreated. Meanwhile, Boruto spends the next few days training and going through the steps needed to learn the Rasengan. He shows it off to Sasuke in front of the Uchiha clan memorial inside the village, and before Sasuke can tell him that he's going to make Boruto his student, Boruto gets frustrated and leaves because he thinks that Sasuke disapproves of the bite-sized Rasengan that he made. And we learn from Sarada that Boruto's never had to train this hard before, and she says that Sasuke should not discourage Boruto, which leads to Boruto turning back up the next day with a ninja tool slipped on his wrist to make a Rasengan much bigger than his chakra reserve should allow him to do. And Sasuke doesn't let on that he knows that Boruto is using the Shinobi Gauntlet and tries to turn Boruto's dislike for his father into a teaching moment, telling Boruto that instead of focusing on who Naruto is today, he should focus on who his father used to be, because it was that journey that Naruto took that made him into the most powerful shinobi who existed. And Sasuke tells Boruto that he sees more potential in him than Naruto ever had, but Boruto takes this the wrong way, believing he needs to continue to use the ninja tools instead of relying on his own talents, and proceeds to use the ninja tools in the Chunin exams despite being told by Naruto that these tools aren't allowed. As Boruto begins down his journey to achieve the rank of Chunin, we see the story further showcase why Sasuke retreating from Momoshiki and Kenshiki was the right call, because Momoshiki quickly makes light work out of Killer Bee, who only just barely manages to avoid being killed by cutting off his tentacle at the last second and hiding his chakra until the duo leaves, thinking that they extracted the chakra from Killer Bee's shadow clone. And it's in this one moment that we see Momoshiki is beginning to start mirroring Boruto. Both of them take shortcuts to gain power, and due to that, they don't properly utilize the skills they have, like Boruto not realizing the complexity of the small Rasengan he made, and Momoshiki being so focused on a quick power-up that he never thought to cut on his Byakugan to verify he was drawing chakra from the real Killer Bee, which this will be an important parallel to remember moving forward. While Boruto continues to turn heads and impress everyone in the Chunin exams, we see Sasuke both working with Konoha to decode the information left behind on Kaguya's scroll, as well as taking time to train Boruto and give Boruto a harsh lesson he's never learned before. Up until now, at this point in his life, nobody's ever pushed Boruto, and everything he's been taught, it's been stuff he's picked up on easily. Hence all the comparisons to Minato, who is stated in the Minato one-shot manga to learn complicated jutsu super fast, and hence Sasuke, and hence Naruto's comparison of Boruto to Sasuke, because Sasuke learned lightning release in only 3 days of training. Boruto picked up his chakra natures at a similar pace, whereas Naruto is so poorly lacking that he required thousands of shadow clones just to master one chakra nature. You see, Sasuke knows he has a prodigy on his hands, and he tells Boruto to stop making excuses for not being able to do the things that Sasuke is trying to teach him, going so far as to show him that genetics have nothing to do with it, and he bruises Boruto's ego by making a large number of shadow clones, basically saying that as Naruto's son, by the logic you just gave me, you should be able to make this many shadow clones, but you struggle just to make 4. Just as raising chakra levels requires training, learning the jutsu that Sasuke's trying to teach Boruto requires him to continue to train. And we see Sasuke's trying to get Boruto to get aggravated by what it is he's done, so that he leans into working harder to prove Sasuke wrong and ultimately stop relying on the ninja tools. But Boruto, due to not grasping the value of hard work, he proceeds to start using the ninja tools all the way up until the final round, especially when using the ninja tools finally gets him the attention of his father, something that he's always wanted. And now that he's finally getting it, with Naruto coming home to personally congratulate him on his progress, Boruto takes that to mean I need to use the ninja tools more. However, it's after Boruto wins the final round of the Chunin exams and wins the tournament that Naruto realizes that something's wrong, and after Hinata confirms Boruto was using the Shinobi Gauntlet, Naruto proceeds to publicly embarrass Boruto as punishment, taking his Shinobi headband, disqualifying him from the Chunin exams, and publicly explaining to everyone in attendance what it is Boruto did wrong. On one hand, you can see why Boruto's both ashamed, because he knows what he did is wrong, and now he's embarrassed. But on the other hand, Naruto chose to route a tough love on Boruto for good reason. He chose to act as Hokage and not as a father. In that moment, he wasn't just representing himself, he was also representing Naruto as his son, and being the son of Hokage comes with more pressure than it does being the son of some random shinobi. Boruto also represented his village in this moment, and by cheating, knowingly using a banned tool, he dishonored his village judge in front of everyone, and as a result, Naruto as a Hokage dished out equal shame to his son. But before Naruto can pull Boruto to the side and explain to him why it is he did what he did, the duo of Momoshiki and Kinshiki arrive. Now, what they're doing here is something that all Otsutsuki can naturally do, which is they can erase the chakra signature to where they can't be sensed even by someone like Naruto. Things like the jutsu absorption and the chakra erasure, it's all stuff that started with Kaguya in Naruto Volume 71, which I'm pointing out due to the common misconception that started with Boruto and it didn't. After a very brief skirmish and the lives of innocent people put at risk, Sasuke states that these are the two names that Kaguya wrote down in a scroll as the pair of invaders who would be coming to kill her for eating the chakra fruit, and that this is why she was preparing the Zetsu army. It's during this interaction that Boruto sees Momoshiki as a monster who is absorbing jutsu and then firing it back twice as strong like it's nothing, and talks so easily about using chakra pills to gain more power. It's in this moment Boruto begins to realize that if he continues to take shortcuts, he's going to end up like Momoshiki, which leads to Naruto sacrificing himself against Momoshiki's massive chakra blast. And we see Naruto not only go into 6-path Sage mode and QB cloak simultaneously to hold off the attack, but he's also splitting his chakra via numerous shadow clones to protect the innocent people left behind in the arena from the attack that's coming. But due to being inside the village, an attack that Naruto would normally be able to bounce away easily, he can't do because of the collateral damage it would cause by discharging a chakra blast needed to throw that attack backwards. And so Naruto uses his body and Kurama as a shield to absorb the damage from the attack. Also, he can contain the destructive output on such a large scale while his chakra's been split up amongst the clones, but by forcing that massive amount of chakra down in size, basically compressing it and making it even stronger due to how compression works, and containing it as best as he can, he ends up doing more damage to himself to knock himself unconscious. Think of it like Naruto literally jumping on top of a grenade to save his village, and we see that despite Naruto's efforts to contain the blast, it still destroyed a chunk of the village, but at least due to Naruto's actions, he saved the people in the immediate area. This leads to Boruto realizing that even though he said he didn't want Naruto as a father, after realizing how much power Naruto truly possessed and what it was he did for the village, Boruto ends up putting on Naruto's old jacket from part 1 and joining the Boruto Kage and Sasuke on the Naruto rescue mission. Now, you might be wondering, okay, so if these guys are strong enough to do that type of damage to Naruto, albeit Naruto put himself in position to be damaged, why would Sasuke bring Boruto along with himself in the 4 Kage? Well, the answer is actually pretty simple. He's training Boruto, and not all training is physical. Sasuke's goal was to prove Naruto wrong, that the heart of a true shinobi still exists in this era, and he wants to take the prodigy of this era, Boruto Uzumaki, and teach him what it truly means to be a shinobi who doesn't take shortcuts for power. And by witnessing Sasuke, Naruto, and the Boruto era Kages, the strongest shinobi of the 5 nations according to the manga, he hopes that this will inspire Boruto to continue his training, but also Sasuke plans to use Boruto in a way that only Boruto can contribute. The resulting battle shows Sasuke and the Boruto era Kage ganging up on Kinshiki and Momoshiki, and we get a chance to see what 15 years of training has done for the other Boruto Kage, with each of them jumping up a few tiers from the Kage tier that they would have been at during the 4th Ninja War. And while each of them individually are weaker than Momoshiki and Kinshiki, working as a collective with Sasuke assisting them, they're able to pressure the duo and nearly kill Kinshiki right as Naruto rejoins the battlefield and is made aware of the fact that, like Kaguya, you can't use ninjutsu against these people because they're either going to tank it or they're going to absorb it. However, just when it seems like they were able to take down this duo without Sasuke having to use his Rinnegan Jutsu, without Naruto even having to use Sage Mode, let alone 6-path Sage Mode and the QB Cloak, the tables turn again and we see Momoshiki absorb Kinshiki by turning him into a chakra fruit and consuming him, because the Otsutsuki clan law is the transfer of power, and weaker Otsutsuki have always been supposed to be the sacrifice for the higher ranked Otsutsuki. This results in Momoshiki transforming into the being known as Fused Momoshiki, and just by releasing his chakra in the form of a shockwave, we see that this Momoshiki is on a different level than before because he cuts down the God Tree at ease, which, as a reminder, remember how strong 8th Gate Guy was, where he was bending time and space with his punches? Guy, for as strong as he wasn't able to do more than just put a few cracks on the God Tree. Naruto, using base 6-path Sage Mode with no QB Cloak added, with a single punch was only able to leave a crater on the God Tree, and he had to use 6-path Lava Release Rasen Shuriken to cut down the god tree in half. Momoshiki casually accomplished this by flexing his chakra, and it's at this point he proceeds to take down the Boruto Arikage like it's nothing. However, Naruto and Sasuke, despite neither being at full power due to Naruto having half of his chakra absorbed by Momoshiki, and Sasuke after transporting so many people to an Otsutsuki dimension, we see that Naruto and Sasuke aren't out to fight, with Naruto blocking and reacting to attacks in base by Momoshiki, and Naruto simultaneously using 6-pass Sage mode in the Kyuubi cloak. He begins to start catching Momoshiki's attack in mid-air, and now that Sasuke's used his Sharingan to watch Momoshiki's movements, Sasuke jumps into the fray, and the two of them begin to bully a fusion of beings who Kage was afraid of, to the point she wrote them down by name in her scroll, which is a testament to how much stronger these two have gotten, and they proceed to make light work out of Momoshiki. But just when an easy victory seems like it might be self-assured, Katasuke, the mad scientist who made the ninja tools, starts shooting off chakra blasts out the ninja tool at Momoshiki, who absorbs them and gains a second wind, and before anyone can react, Momoshiki shoots off Shikamaru's shadow possession jutsu that he previously absorbed to trap Naruto, Sasuke, and the Kages, which leads to Sasuke having to use his trump card. He tells Boruto to trust in him and throw his Rasengan off at Momoshiki, and we see that the arrogance of Momoshiki has reared its ugly head, because he doesn't even use his Byakugan or his Rinnegan to see why Boruto's Rasengan vanished, but he pays for it when Boruto's Rasengan smacks him in the face when his guard's lowered and freeing up the Boruto Arikage. Sasuke explains to us that Boruto, without realizing it, has successfully added lightning release to his Rasengan, which in turn makes it vanish, and Sasuke was reluctant to rely on Boruto doing this for a second time, because there was always a chance Boruto added a lightning chakra nature to the Rasengan as a fluke. Naruto, upon seeing how hard his son has worked, tells Boruto to form a Rasengan and to not worry about it not being strong enough to take down Momoshiki, and that's when Naruto dumps all of his chakra into Boruto's Rasengan, while simultaneously showing Boruto through his chakra all the trials and tribulations that Naruto went through in order to get this powerful, and Boruto's eyes well up with tears as he sees what his father endured and realizes how much Naruto had to train to achieve so much chakra that Boruto describes as being heavy. And between Sasuke's brilliant strategy to serve as a diversion and Boruto using shadow clones to damage Momoshiki's Rinnegan that absorbs chakra, Boruto is able to slam the Rasengan made from Naruto's chakra into Momoshiki and kill him. However, it's in the time after this battle and everyone celebrating that we see that this story doesn't end with a happy ending. Instead, it ends with a cliffhanger, an ominous cliffhanger at that. Momoshiki freezes space and time around the battlefield as his ghost lingers in this realm, and only Sasuke with his Rinnegan was immune, and due to Boruto having Byakugan blood, he too was immune. After Momoshiki tells Boruto he strongly inherited the genetics of the Otsutsuki clan, he warns him that those who kill gods can never be normal humans again, and after grabbing Boruto's hand, a strange marking appears that we later learn is called the Karma Seal, and Momoshiki disappears, seemingly to never be heard of again. Sasuke, fully aware of what's happened, watches Boruto from a distance as he fist bumps his father, as father and son begin promising to work together on their relationship, and Boruto goes off with this next mission with Team 7. While Boruto might be taking the mark on his hand lightly, we see Sasuke's expression that he's worried that something else comes with Momoshiki having given Boruto the Karma Seal, and that their Otsutsuki troubles are not over with yet. Boruto's Mujina Bandits Arc, while it's short, does mark a bit of a transition. Whereas the versus Momoshiki arc was a build-up towards the battle with aliens Hokage was afraid of, this arc takes Boruto on Team 7 back to a more grounded approach and also begins the downfall of Konohamaru Sarutobi as a character. And while it hurts to see a legacy character fade into the background, Konohamaru's slow departure over the next two arcs does make sense. As we all know, with a Genin team, you have a Jonin sensei who guides them on missions until the three Genin become Chunin, who can lead other Genin on missions. However, as we'll see in this arc, Konohamaru is cursed with having a team of prodigies who are so skilled that for the most part their talent makes up for their lack of mission experience. Also, this arc marks the dark side of Naruto's run as Hokage. In this time of peace, there are forces moving in the shadows trying to undermine that peace through methods more than just using physical force, and while Naruto is aware of these forces, he doesn't truly know how deep they run. So the Mujina Bandits arc itself opens up with Boruto and Team 7 engaging in combat with the Mujina Bandits, a criminal organization that makes its money through blackmail and robbery and mafia-like criminal activity inside the Land of Fire. While Boruto's getting shouted at by Sarada about not paying attention to their plan, Boruto is thinking to that warning that Sasuke gave him about the mark that Boruto received from Momoshiki, with Sasuke being very worried that only Boruto, for an unknown reason, and Sasuke because of his Rinnegan, could move when Momoshiki stopped time, and Sasuke tells Boruto that he needs to be the first one who gets alerted if anything goes wrong with the mark that Momoshiki gave him, which makes sense. Sasuke left the village during the flashback events of Naruto Gaiden, specifically to investigate Kaguya, and so it stands to reason that he be the best person for Boruto to tell if anything happened with that karma seal that he got from Momoshiki. When Boruto and Team 7 engage with the Mujina Bandits, they're all rogue ninjas from Konoha, but their skill level at best only goes up to Chunin, and the problem for them is that every member of Team 7 has casual Chunin skill, and at their full power they have the striking power of Jonin, which leads to Mitsuki taking one of them out and Sarada going so far as to bully another shinobi, casually tossing out combo attacks before using her monster strength and sending him flying. And this leads to a rather controversial panel that thankfully Viz Media has fixed since the initial print of the chapter. Originally, the panel was Sarada speaking to the remaining member of the Mujina Bandits, saw her say that she hopes the mafia boss of the Mujina Bandits is her type, but the Japanese translation of this, given the context, was what Viz Media has currently changed it to, which is that she hopes that he's really strong. I'd love to meet him, which is more in character for Sarada. She wants to be Hokage, which means she wants to fight strong people so she can build her legacy, because both as a female and as an Uchiha, she has a long road ahead of her if she wants to be Hokage. The work she's gonna have to put in is gonna be absolutely insane. Out of all 7 Hokage, only one of them's been a woman, and out of all the Hokage, none of them have been Uchiha, and that's been for political reasons. You had Madara attack and Hashirama had to kill him. Fugaku led a secret coup attempt against the village. Setsunu Uchiha tried to overthrow Tobirama in the first Ninja War, and in each of these instances there was miscommunication and distrust between the village and the clan that only grew as more time went on. It's in this moment that we see Sarada has both her mother's strong physical power and her father's combat skill, but she also inherited a keen sense of deception because her plan was to bait the remaining member of the Mujina Bandits into running away so they can follow him to the boss. But Boruto, being Boruto, steps in with a Rasengan and one-shots the remaining member, effectively blowing apart the mission, which goes back to what we stated earlier. This is a team of prodigies. They're highly skilled, but they lack the experience, and that's exactly why we see Konohamaru sighing as he watches from the shadows at his team gaining. He's praising them for taking down the Mujina members, but he's also sighing in frustration because they didn't fully carry out the mission. They deviated from it. Meanwhile, after Naruto learns that Katasuke was operating under a genjutsu, we get our first signs of KAR, the group of main antagonists of Boruto Part 1. That KAR has essentially been operating in the shadows, and their first major job that they pulled was to steal all the ninja tech data that Konoha has advanced in the last few years, and this leads to Naruto telling Sai and Ibiki to continue looking into who is behind the genjutsu and the intel leak, and that's a really big deal. Boruto might be set in a new era, and the shinobi villages might be on good terms, and they might share intel, but there are still things that the ninja villages, they don't know about each other. And having an unknown enemy take that prized data that Naruto worked so hard to have developed is a sign that Konoha during this time of peace on the Naruto has gotten lax. That's the true threat of KAR. We learned this in the physical volumes of Boruto, that Katasuke isn't the only person who KAR has actually used genjutsu on, or they manipulated into sharing their village's secrets. Also that the KAR scientist Amato can take that data and improve upon it for its own research purposes. Even groups like the Mujina Bandits, whether they knowingly or unknowingly in this case, realize that they're working directly for KAR, and these criminal groups are doing major damage to the civilian public by selling the dangerous drugs that Sakura created using her research and ninja tech in order to help people. But like a lot of drugs in real life, they're highly addictive, and as a result you have people who make money selling those drugs. It's for this reason that the Mujina Bandits are being targeted by Naruto and Konoha, because Naruto's in the process of having these criminal mobs wiped out, starting with the ones in the Land of Fire like the Mujina Bandits and their leader Shojoji, who can use his forbidden jutsu to take on the appearance of others and gain their memories after he kills the people he transforms into, which is why he's never been caught. Shojoji could be anyone due to this jutsu, and you'd never know it. And for Naruto, this comes at a terrible time, because the new feudal lord Madoku Ikkyo is inside of Konoha with his son Tento, and Naruto's answer to deal with the feudal lord's bratty son is to have his his own bratty son Boruto babysit him. However, it runs a lot deeper than that. So Tento's actually a very important character in this arc. Tento is just like Momoshiki from the previous arc. He represents a part of Boruto that is trying to change. Momoshiki represented the end game of what would happen if Boruto continued to take the path of gaining power without actual hard work, and Tento represents what happens if Boruto continues to be a spoiled brat of a powerful father, and that's part of what makes their interaction hit so hard. Tento's brash nature and his eagerness to use his status and wealth to solve problems, it rubs Boruto the wrong way because we see Boruto trying to implement the values that we saw Sasuke instill in him in the last arc. Previously, Boruto was willing to cheat to level up his video game characters, and when Tento buys up all the cards in the village shop for the very popular Shinobi card game, he casually gives Boruto the card of Sasuke that Boruto wanted, but we see the growth in Boruto in that he's wanting to actually purchase the cards themselves and get the card for himself. There's no easy path to the things that you want. It's something that he understands now because of Sasuke, and over the course of that arc, it's something that Boruto begins to teach to Tento, and this leads to Boruto taking the time out to begin training Tento in basic shinobi arts like the shuriken throwing, and just as Sasuke grabbed Boruto's attention in the last arc by being the first teacher that Boruto's had that truly pushed him, Boruto grabs Tento's attention by being the first person to teach him who doesn't kiss his ass. Boruto doesn't care that Tento's the son of a feudal lord, which leads to these two bonding, and unbeknownst to them, one of the Mujina Bandits has infiltrated the feudal lord's guard detail and has made plans to capture Tento because Shojoji's about to make a huge power play. He's planning to use his forbidden jutsu to kill Tento and take over his body as well as his memories so he can get close to the feudal lord and do the same thing to the feudal lord, and the reason why is very simple. It's all about control. When we look at the author comments in Boruto Volume 10, the former Boruto writer Ukyo Kodachi reveals that there are criminal groups like the Mujina Bandits who steal not just secrets like the ninja tools, but they take the medical advancements that were spearheaded by Sakura in the form of drugs that she created during the blank period using science and her medical ninjutsu, and they sell those drugs on the black market, which leads to groups like the Mujina Bandits not just existing in Konoha but also in remote regions where they run entire small countries. Think about how Gato all the way back in the Land of Waves arc was basically running the Land of Waves. Now picture that with somebody running an entire country. Shojoji's Mujina Bandits, they're very close to being broken up by Naruto, which is why he's making this power play, because he's running out of time. He wants to kidnap Tento, transform into Tento with his memories, kill Tento, and then repeat the process with the feudal lord of the Land of Fire by killing Madoka Ikkyo. And once this is done, the Mujina Bandits, they can operate freely in the Land of Fire, because while Naruto might be Hokage, Naruto still has to answer to the feudal lord. The feudal lord is not only someone who can remove Naruto's Hokage, but they also have to get his permission to even make Naruto Hokage, and most importantly, the feudal lord literally is the one funding the village itself. So if Naruto crosses the feudal lord, he screws his entire village. It's actually a really half decent plan by Shojoji, though it does have some flaws admittedly. The kidnapping of Tento leads to Boruto basically acting on his own again, ditching the B-rank mission that Konohamaru managed to secure for Team 7, which is a big deal because even in this Boruto era, B-rank missions, they still go to Chunin, and A and S rank missions still go to Jonin. Boruto basically throws the mission away and races after Tento once he learns he's been kidnapped, and Boruto, after tracking down the Mujina Bandits hideout, proceeds to challenge Shojoji to a battle. Now, Shojoji might look like your stereotypical mob boss, big bulging belly, gaudy jewelry, and smoking cigars, but as Boruto quickly learns, he's a wanted criminal for a reason. He's deceptively fast and has amazing combat skill. In the Shikamaru Shinden Fallen Petals of Forlorn Hope story, we learned that Shikamaru's data on Shojoji had him as someone so powerful that he believed it would require a team of 2 Jonin and Chunin to bring him down, which is why Boruto at the start has a bit of a hard time by him, getting blitzed by Shojoji when Boruto least expects it. But we see Boruto quickly adapting as the battle goes on, showing his mastery of the Uchiha clan's hidden jutsu. It's a shuriken jutsu that Fugaku and Mikoto passed down to Itachi, who passed it down to Sasuke, who passed it down to Sarada, but he's also passed it down to Boruto, which is a reminder, hidden jutsu are not Kekkei Genkai. They can be learned by anyone who isn't from the clan as long as someone from in the clan teaches it to them. But Boruto takes this shuriken jutsu and he adds his own flair to it by incorporating lightning release into it so that it makes the blades of the shuriken sharper and they have more destructive power as a result. However, Shojoji's mastery of wind release leads to a jutsu that operates like a spinning shield that blows back the jutsu at Boruto and is even able to shoot Boruto's Rasengan back at him, and we see a really impressive speed feat by Boruto. He's shown dodging the Rasengan shot back at him that was at point blank range. This battle, it might be short, but in just those two instances, we see the story showing it's going back to some of the roots of Naruto's manga, something that a lot of people say that Boruto got away from, but instances like this show that those people just been reading the story with their eyes closed. We have taijutsu battle here, and we have Shinobi using chakra natures in a strategic manner. Boruto's attack would have worked if he had fought anyone else, but the story chose to show Shojoji's wind release to remind readers that wind release is superior to lightning release, hence the jutsu was blown back, which is something we learn in the Akatsuki suppression arc when Yamato explains chakra natures to Naruto. As the battle rages on, we see Boruto showing those Minato genes by processing the information he gained from Shojoji's jutsu, and we see another crucial element from Naruto, which is that jutsu like the windshield are supposed to be trump cards, but you're not supposed to use them over and over in battle, because the more times someone like Boruto sees the jutsu perform, the easier it'll become for them to find a weakness, and Boruto is attempting to do just that. But Shojoji proves to be very capable of wind release, and he can switch between a defensive barrier and he can switch to an offensive use of wind release, and had it not been for Tento throwing shuriken at Shojoji's back, he might have actually killed Boruto in that instance, because he said he had to be very careful not to kill Boruto. Boruto, being as observant as he is, realizes that Shojoji's back is his weakness with his wind release shield, and he lands a Rasengan that blows Shojoji across the room and destroys the outside wall of the hideout. But it's at this moment when Boruto is about to finish him off that the marking on Boruto's hand, which is called the Karma Seal, suddenly activates, and Shojoji freaks out because he's seen that marking before. And when he moves to take down Boruto, Sword and Mitsuki show up to finish off Shojoji, showing that they've abandoned Konohamaru before the B-rank mission to follow after Boruto, and we see another crack in the foundation of Konohamaru. His team of prodigies is clearly talented, enough so to the point they don't feel the need to alert their sensei they're about to go take down a Jonin level threat. However, while Konohamaru scolds the team for the action, Sasuke steps in to interrogate Shojoji in one of the coldest manga panels that we have of Sasuke in the Boruto manga. Sasuke goes from watching Shojoji withstand interrogation methods of Sai, who was raised by Danzo in the Root organization, and Ibiki, who was known in Naruto Part 1 as being a brutal interrogator. And when Sasuke shows his Rinnegan to Shojoji, Shojoji basically craps himself when Sasuke says, "You know exactly who I am, don't you?" And we learn that Sasuke has been making it his own personal mission to take down people in the criminal underworld like Shojoji, and we learn from Shojoji that Kara has been operating in secret and looking at a wall of various Karma Seal patterns, and Shojoji explains that the Karma Seal is on a different level than any of Orochimaru's curse marks, which that's going to transition us over to the Vessel arc. This really feels like a sequel to the Momoshiki arc because it takes us from a Jonin level threat to a Kage level threat all the way up to an Otsutsuki level threat. And it's all because of this group that we see meeting, the Kara, which now I want to take a second to further explain Kara to blow up this misconception that a lot of fans have that Kara is just a bootleg Akatsuki. Remember how we previously said that Kara was manipulating criminal groups from the shadows like the Mujina Bandits, even if their leader Shojoji didn't know that Kara was doing so? Well, if the Mujina Bandits were to be considered a drug organization, Shojoji would have just been a large distributor for a city who runs drugs all over the place, and the Kara organization, that would be the connect that supplies the drugs, basically the cartel. They're isolated from the day-to-day activities of people like Shojoji, but their reach is everywhere. In the physical copies of Boruto's manga, we learn not only do every Kara enter have their own sector of the ninja world, ranging from remote regions to the regions of the 5 major nations, but they also have what are called outers, who do their bidding by pulling acts of espionage and sabotage in plain sight. In fact, according to Naruto Volume 10, Kara is more than aware of Naruto's efforts to bust up the criminal underworld that Kara manipulates in order to get money and resources. And this is a really big deal. The answer to the Naruto problem that their leader Jigen has is to say physically dealing with Naruto is a last option, something he's more than capable of doing. Instead, Jigen has the Kara outers instilled in the feudal lord's elder ruler council and has several politicians and wealthy merchants inside the Land of Fire working behind the scenes to outright remove Naruto from power and neutralize the feudal lord who supports Naruto. In fact, inside of every major nation, Kara has outer members positioned in high places working to do the same thing. Whereas if you look at the Akatsuki, they took on mercenary work in order to get funds before they went full on rogue against the ninja world by hunting down Jinchuriki. Jigen and Kara, they're doing a similar thing, but it's more sophisticated. They aren't mercenaries or hire. They literally have a large scale network of outer members who are managed by the inner Kara members. Each inner Kara member, according to Sasuke, is powerful enough to be considered an Otsutsuki level threat. And the reason for everything Jigen is doing is the goal to remove Naruto and the Kage so that nobody accidentally stumbles across his true goal, which is to prepare a vessel for Ishiki Otsutsuki's revival. At the start of the arc, we learned that Kara has lost his prized possession that, according to Delta, had enough money to be spent on it that they could have purchased an entire nation, and we learned that the airship that is carrying the vessel has crashed inside the Land of Fire, and Kashin Koji has been assigned to track down that vessel because the Land of Fire is his sector that he's charged with. And as the Kara meeting ends with the Genjutsu transmission, we get a curveball thrown and our first sign that Kashin Koji isn't who we think he is, because he just outright kills one of the Kara Inner. Victor with a fire release jutsu that burns so quickly that not even regeneration jutsu can actually keep up with it. Meanwhile, inside of Konoha, we're shown Boruto training with Naruto in a sparring match at the Academy Halls, and we see more of Boruto's talent as a shinobi, highlighting he's more like his grandfather Minato than his father Naruto. Boruto goes from using shadow clones as a diversion to attack Naruto from behind with the Rasengan that he throws at him, to using a clever combination of water release and lightning release to attempt to place Naruto on a defensive. But again, we see more of the information we're told from Naruto's manga about chakra natures. Naruto sees the water release coming and decides to use earth release, which is strong against water, but because Boruto used lightning release to amp up the water, Naruto has to make a pretty durable earth release because earth release is inferior to lightning release. And we see another aspect of what we learned from Naruto's manga. Boruto's jutsu took a chakra nature that was weak against earth release and it added a superior chakra nature on top of it to strengthen it, but Boruto's own chakra levels are not large enough to even crack Naruto's casual use of a mud wall despite having a superior chakra nature. Naruto then takes the opportunity to show off his new prosthetic arm, which can absorb jutsu by shoving his hand through the mud wall and absorbing the chakra. And while Boruto's distracted, Naruto uses a body flicker to get behind Boruto and kick him onto the ground to end the sparring match. Once again, highlighting something we said earlier. Boruto's Team 7, they're a team of prodigy, but they lack the experience. Hence, Naruto easily outsmarted Boruto, having to remind him that a ninja must see through deception, something crucial for a shinobi. And once Boruto learns that Naruto's arm was a ninja tool, Boruto loses his mind, despite understanding that this is different than Boruto cheating using ninja tools in the Chunin exam. Back then, the ninja tools were forbidden in exams because they did not use a shinobi's own power, which is what the Chunin exams was meant to measure. Naruto using them in a sparring match was simply to collect data on those tools, which were still incomplete, which Sasuke scolds Boruto for still being a brat. After we see Boruto's team being assigned to transport Katasuki to the outskirts of the Land of Fire to the Ninja Tech facility, we run into a familiar face from Naruto's manga, the elite Jonin of the Mist Village who served underneath the previous Mizukage, Ao. However, just as Naruto took advantage of Boruto's inexperience and tendency to lower his guard, so too did Ao, who grabs a screwdriver and points it at Boruto's neck, saying that he let his guard down and had they been enemies, Boruto would be dead now. So if you're wondering why Ao is still alive, because he supposedly died during the 4th Ninja War when Shinobi HQ was destroyed by Ten-Tails Biju Dama, I recommend watching Boruto episode 178, which goes in depth about how Ao survived. But a short answer is that he barely lived and spent years in a coma inside of Konoha, and Katasuke's ninja tech is what helped him regain some mobility, and eventually the Kara organization used their superior technology to give Ao not only his full mobility back, but they made a former elite shinobi and Ao even stronger than he was, and as a result, Ao is one of the outer members who serves Kara as an outer. After Boruto and Team 7 leave, we learned during the conversation with Kashin Koji that Ao was the one who placed Katasuki under Genjutsu and stole Konoha's developments with the ninja tech for Kara. Ao gets assigned to the mission to retrieve the lost vessel and kill the 2 Konoha Jonin, Konohamaru and Mujino, if they discover what the lost vessel actually is, because again, Jigen wants Kara to operate in secret before making his big move on the ninja world. So while we have Ao hunting down Konohamaru and Mujino by using robots with incredible striking power, we see Boruto coming to grips with his hatred for ninja tech, which is mostly rooted in the embarrassment that came from the Chunin exams. After we get an impressive sparring match where Boruto and Sarada are fighting, and Boruto states he goes all out in taijutsu against Sarada, and Sarada holds him off despite never cutting on her Sharingan, we see Boruto learn that ninja tech isn't as bad as he believed it to be. Boruto learns this through seeing various types of ninja tech, but he also learns that ninja tech is used to do more than aid shinobi. It's helped people like Ao, who weren't ever supposed to actually walk again, actually live a seemingly normal life, and he meets an Inuzuka clan member whose dog got its leg blown off on a mission, and Katasuke's ninja tech allowed that dog to walk again. Boruto sees that ninja tech can actually save lives. Now, the reason behind this is actually explained in detail in Boruto Volume 11's Secret Shinobi column that you get in the physical copy of the manga. Basically, there are multiple types of ninja tech. The Shinobi Gauntlet is only one of those types. Katasuke was the one who, under Kakashi as Hokage, got access to the enhanced Hashirama cells that Tsunade developed using a body left behind by White Zetsu, and made it more potent when she made Naruto's prosthetic arm in Naruto chapter 699. Kakashi, seeing this, wanted to allow this to be used for the greater public, but only if people in the private sector like Katasuke could cut down on the high death rate that comes from people using the Hashirama cells. One of the methods chosen for this was to make an artificial synthetic system of tunnels inside the body, which greatly cuts down on the risk of these cells being used for the ninja tech, not just to replace limbs, but also organs. However, Katasuke's research, while advanced, is still ongoing in this field, with him being unable to fully use those Hashirama cells on a nano level to bind it with the ninja tech without having those gaudy mechanical appearances that people like Ao have, or that small dog has that we see in this arc. After Boruto realizes that ninja tech can be used for good, he's given an urgent mission by Naruto to take Team 7 and find Konohamaru, which leads to Boruto and Team 7 eventually coming face to face with Ao, and in the battle that ensues, Mujino kills himself trying to slow down Ao so that Konohamaru's team can escape. Now, this battle shows that Boruto inherited a lot of Minato's keen intellect, because Boruto continues to lead the charge with a brilliant counterattack on Ao, which sees Mitsuki first use Kakashi's Purple Lightning Jutsu, which is a substitute for the Raikiri, and it leads to Konohamaru and Sarada joining in the battle with Ao to preoccupy him, while Boruto tries to land a sneak attack from behind, and we see more of the fact that Boruto has the skill and intellect of a Jonin, because he's purposely using shadow clones to collect intel and to serve as diversion simultaneously, because he learns of the hidden weapons that Ao has in his body, and he tricks Ao into picking up a ninja tech blade that drains the chakra of the wielder at a rapid rate, which is enough to weaken Ao to a level that Boruto and company can take him down, which Boruto promptly attempts to do after his clone is destroyed by having his real body come out to use the intel that's gathered, which is that Ao's ninja tech arm can absorb jutsu, and so Boruto uses the same ninja tech to cancel out Ao's ninja tech, and he takes his free hand to slam a Rasengan into Ao's body, which is left unable to defend itself from Boruto's attack. However, once again, we see that while Boruto is talented, he lacks experience, and it's due to this that he has once again lowered his guard, despite being warned by both Naruto and Ao that doing so is a fatal mistake, and it's Konohamaru who ends up paying the price for it. Konohamaru saw the drone that Ao released prior to actually taking the hit for Boruto. That drone was lurking in the air, and he has to push Boruto out the way to take the attack that's strong enough that it knocks Konohamaru unconscious, which, given that Boruto literally has his guard lowered all the way down, that attack likely would have killed Boruto because he was off guard. So while it's easy to meme Konohamaru for this, he still saved a student life, which is a really big deal, and it's in this moment that Boruto learns a very important lesson. Don't ever lower your guard until your enemy's been fully defeated. And now that Boruto's learned this lesson, we again see him using shadow clones in a strategic manner, and this time he takes a page out of Naruto's book by hiding his real body in the ground, and he uses the ninja tech blade in order to slice off Amato's arm and leg, and he slams a Rasengan in his body to cripple Ao. But the problem is that watching the entire fight is Kashin Koji, who steps out of the shadows to kill Ao using a toad summoning, and he quickly shows he's on a different level than Team 7 by trapping them in a complex sealing jutsu that restricts their movements, and before he can kill Team 7, Konohamaru activates a sealing jutsu that undoes Kashin Koji's seal on Konohamaru and proceeds to engage in a quick battle that Kashin Koji gives Konohamaru praise before Koji places an exploding toad on Konohamaru's side during the Rasengan clash and sets Konohamaru on fire with the Purgatory Flame Jutsu, which is a fire release similar to Amaterasu that cannot be put out by water or wind, which leads to Boruto activating his Karma Seal to absorb Kashin Koji's sealing jutsu, binding Team 7, as well as the flames before they can kill Konohamaru. Upon seeing Boruto with the Karma Seal, Koji allows him to live, and that leads to Boruto and company stumbling across an unconscious Kawaki as Delta joins Kashin Koji with orders to bring back the vessel. However, we learn that Delta's brought one of her outers who serves her to speed up the process, which leads to an extremely intense battle between Kawaki and Goro, and we learn quickly that the battle between Kawaki and Goro has escalated to S rank level, which is reserved for elite Jonin and levels of power and threat levels that require one of the 5 Kage to deal with it. Kawaki versus Goro highlights a stark difference in the ninja tech that Kara uses, as well as blows out everything that Katasuke was able to do. People like Goro, they have bodies like ow. The Hashirama cells used by the Kara scientist Amato still come with a high rejection rate that kills most people, but people like Goro who don't take well to the cells but end up living still end up losing some of their limbs, which is why Goro has mechanical enhancement limbs. However, Kawaki's entire body is a scientific ninja tool, making him a cyborg. But most importantly, Kawaki has the Karma Seal just like Boruto, and when his Karma Seal activates, Kawaki gets a monster boost in power, and as a result, Boruto's Karma activates as it resonates, and we see Kawaki quickly destroy Goro with a blast so powerful it not only blows apart half of Goro's body, but it also destroys the cliff that they're standing on and a chunk of the surrounding area, with a blast so large that Boruto, had he not instinctually used the Karma Seal to absorb it, the blast would have killed Boruto and Team 7. Kawaki falls unconscious and Boruto declares it's time to take him back to Konoha to let Naruto decide what to do with him, and Jigen's worst nightmares happen. Naruto and Konoha now know about the vessel's existence. They now possess the vessel, which the vessel itself is Kawaki because he is the vessel for Ishiki Otsutsuki. And the man who's been operating in the shadows, Jigen, is now on a collision course with Naruto Uzumaki himself. With Boruto's Kara actuation arc, the story goes into a calm before the storm, and it's the start of the downfall of Naruto Uzumaki, because throughout this arc, we will see that Naruto's greatest strength, his capacity for love and forgiveness and trust in others, is what will ultimately be his downfall, and it all starts with Kawaki. Naruto's first words to Kawaki are that he's now in a safe place, but due to Kawaki's upbringing underneath Jigen and Kara, he immediately is suspicious and on edge, and he's not the only one, because Shikamaru, being Naruto's advisor, warns him that he's putting the village at risk by not locking Kawaki away in a cell outside the village, because he's unsure if Kawaki is a spy or if he could be a magnet to attract Kara, who are after Kawaki. However, Naruto's answer sets the tone for the entire attitude of this arc itself, as well as the future arcs. He tells Shikamaru, I am a Jinchuriki, and I could have been locked up like this if the third Hokage had chose a different route with me. The reason why this is so important is that Jinchuriki are typically isolated from other villagers, placed directly under the control of the Kage like Gaara was, or they're literally isolated from the village like we saw with the third Hokage do with Kushina in the Minato one-shot manga. Any other Hokage besides Naruto would have looked at Kawaki and the risk that he posed, and when weighing it against the village, they would have put the safety of the village first until they could get more data to make a more informed decision. Naruto once vowed to be a Hokage like none other before him, and we see here that this is definitely the case, and it's also going to be Naruto's greatest weakness. But we also see here that Naruto's Hokage is actually a little bit arrogant. At this point in time, Naruto is the strongest shinobi on the planet. He's fought multiple Otsutsuki and saved the world more times than he has children. While Sasuke might have told him that Kara is a group of Otsutsuki level fighters, Naruto isn't concerned, and when the Kage speak to Naruto and are informed about how Kawaki's body is entirely ninja tech, so advanced that it's light years ahead of Konoha, Naruto brushes off the concerns of the Kage and even plays the I was a Jinchuriki card when he's pushed into a corner by 2 of the Kage. Logically speaking, the Kage, they have no choice but to listen to Naruto here. Think about it. If the strongest shinobi on the planet is telling you that his shadow clone is enough to keep watch over Kawaki, you kinda have to listen to him and defer to his judgment. But we see here that the Raikage does raise a very interesting point when he mentions that Naruto's son possesses a karma seal as well, and it's an unspoken warning that has been put out there. They don't know what the karma is, but the fact that Boruto has something on his body that the enemy wants definitely means it poses a threat, because they know that karma came from Notsuki and that Kar is desperately trying to get Kawaki back, and it might be because of this karma seal. Naruto's approach is basically, let's wait and see how things play out. But much to Naruto's dismay, things don't exactly go as he planned. When Kawaki tries to escape the Uzumaki household, Naruto simultaneously uses his 6-pass Sage Mode and Kyuubi Cloak to flex his power to Kawaki while warning him that he's free to leave wherever he wants to go inside the village, but do not mistake Naruto's kindness for weakness, because he will be watching over him because it's his duty to protect the village, and right now he's unsure if Kawaki's a threat or not. However, while this panel does rub people the wrong way, I get why the writer for this portion of Boruto's story, Ukyo Kodachi, was trying to convey the information he was. Naruto showed Kawaki his strongest form and had him say that he isn't going to harm him in order to let Kawaki know, I have all this power, but I won't use it on you unless you give me a reason to. And he's telling him the only reason he'd ever have to harm a child is if said child was a threat to the village. So far in the story, Kawaki's reaction has all been about survival and rushing to use violence and force wherever possible. Naruto flexed that level of power in order to reach Kawaki in a language that Kawaki would understand, and showed him that just as easily Naruto can turn into a savage, he can also be a kind-hearted father who immediately powers down when he sees that his power is actually scaring his daughter. This one moment worked too, because Kawaki immediately stands down and gives an important statement, which is that based off what he saw from Naruto, he thinks that Naruto might actually be stronger than Jigen. Kawaki's a pretty reliable narrator in this instance. He's directly trained under Jigen, so it's worth noting that the word might is used here, meaning he left himself some wiggle room, but this shows you just what the leader of Kar is actually capable of, because Kawaki makes this assessment, and it proves Naruto's warning that he got from Sasuke to be correct, which is that the Kar enters are Otsutsuki level. The next chunk of this arc deals with the rather important story anchor that is meant to foreshadow the end of Boruto Naruto Next Generations, which is that Kawaki's trying to rebuild the vase that Himawari made for Hinata for her birthday. Boruto and Kawaki don't get along, and it starts with Boruto seeing Kawaki destroy the vase that Himawari made. However, when we aren't getting into skirmishes between Boruto and Kawaki where they're literally throwing hands at each other over a pissing contest, we see Kawaki working diligently to repair the vase that Himawari gave to Hinata, and that vase holds a symbolic meaning because the vase itself represents Kawaki. Kawaki is someone who is broken just like that vase. He's been smashed into dozens if not hundreds of tiny pieces, and just as it takes some time to begin gluing the pieces back together for the vase, Naruto is attempting to do the same to Kawaki in this arc by showing him fatherly love, something that Kawaki's never had before. Just as this once beautiful vase that was made out of love will never look the same once it's glued back together, the same is true for Kawaki after we end everything in the Boruto series. No matter what Naruto does, he won't be able to return Kawaki back to who he was before all the terrible things happen to him. Yet just as Naruto won't ever give up on trying, it's the same thing for Kawaki. He won't ever give up on trying to fix this vase. It's one of the many parallels that we have with Kawaki and Naruto in this arc, and you can see why Naruto's making it his personal mission to try and fix Kawaki, because he's projecting what his life as a Jinchuriki could have been onto Kawaki, wanting to give a boy who was isolated the bonds that were needed in order to save him, just as bonds that Naruto formed over time saved Naruto from the fate that all the other Jinchuriki had. It's poetic, but as we'll see, Naruto's good efforts are just one of many stones that on that figurative path that the road to hell is paved with good intentions. Naruto isn't Kawaki. Kawaki isn't Naruto, and it's because of how they're brought up. Whereas kid Naruto is carefree and he used pranks and laughter to hide his pain, Kawaki deals with his pain through aggression and violence, which leads to him almost killing an innocent child in the streets of Konoha, all because the kid bumps into him. Because as Kawaki says, he's been conditioned to think that there's danger everywhere. He's constantly on edge, and there are times where we can see that Kawaki knows to set him apart from other people. To get personal, he's a lot like how I was when I first went over to a girlfriend's house to meet her family for dinner. I didn't realize how differently I've been brought up until I sat at a dinner table with the whole family, where people are laughing and they're asking how each other's day went. That's something I never truly experienced, where the parents sit down opposite ends of the table and everyone passes food around to each other, and it's something that they do on a daily basis. Kawaki is experiencing that right now in Konoha, that level of discomfort that I did in that scenario. He sees how normal life is for people like Sarada, who looks at him crazy for attacking that kid, and how she can enter into the flower shop to get flowers without a care in the world. Kawaki's never had freedom and leisure before, something that the people of Konoha have the opportunity to experience. The same when he sits down with Uzumaki family and sees them eating breakfast together and eating dinner together every night, seeing smiling faces. It's the opposite of what he's used to. Food wasn't something he had a choice about eating. He was just given enough food and water to stay alive, and he was beaten daily by people like Jigen and Delta under the guise of training. He didn't have a say in what he could do for fun. Everything was meticulously controlled by Jigen. He wasn't even viewed as human, which is why the scenes you get with Kawaki in the anime eating ramen with Naruto and eating pastries with Naruto and Sarada show him looking out of place, because it's not an experience that he's familiar with. Kawaki carries a deep level of trauma that nobody in the village is able to fully relate to. The only person who's close to it is Naruto, which is why when Kawaki has a PTSD moment in Ino's flower shop, Naruto holds Kawaki close to his heart and he calms him down. However, as we'll soon see, Kawaki is both running from demons from his past in the form of his memories as well as physically, because Kashin, Koji, and Delta, they're literally outside the village, which both shows how times have changed in this time of peace for Konoha. In years past, two people standing on top of the trees outside the main gates of Konoha, they would have been spotted there. And Kashin Koji's even able to walk freely through the streets of Konoha undetected, both due to the security being more lax now, as well as for reasons that are not yet revealed. But they will be revealed when we learn the true identity of Kashin Koji. As the expression goes, hard times make strong men, and good times create weak men. 16 years ago, Koji would have never been able to get away with this, which shows the double-edged sword that comes with Naruto being Hokage. However, after we go through a series of training montages meant to showcase how strong the Karma Seal is, with Boruto getting complimented by Naruto by the monster amp and power that the seal gives to Boruto, where he's able to push base Naruto to brace himself to take his attacks, and we see Naruto oversee the joint training of Boruto and Kawaki. It's in the aftermath of this that we see Momoshiki suddenly emerge on the panel where Boruto and Kawaki form the unison sign, and both of them are in extreme pain. This is our first sign that Momoshiki is indeed inside of Boruto, and that Kawaki has an Otsutsuki chakra inside of him as well. Their karma seals, they're resonating, but before we can learn why they feel extreme physical pain, Delta shows up at the Hokage training ground right next to the academy in order to confront Naruto, and this is where things get really interesting. Naruto knows right away that Delta has potential to be bad news, and this is the reason he wanted to keep Kawaki close, because Sasuke's intelligence suggested that these were Otsutsuki level fighters, and Naruto for that reason orders everyone to stay away from the area, and he tells Boruto to take Himawari and run away because Himawari is a non-combatant, but he wants to leave Kawaki there to confirm if Kawaki is who he thinks he is, which is an innocent child caught up in the middle of this, or if Shikamaru is right that Kawaki is a spy. The problem here though is that Delta arrives before Naruto can have his orders followed by Boruto, and we get a rather controversial battle. As we saw earlier, Naruto, despite having 50% of his chakra being absorbed, was able to bully a fusion of two Otsutsuki level fighters who Kage was afraid of, and he didn't even use his full power when he did that. So we all know that this Naruto, while he is a little rusty, he's still ridiculously cracked. However, the problem here is that so too is Delta, and she proves pretty quickly in the fight that Sasuke's suspicions about the car power levels are correct. After Naruto and Delta feel each other out, with Naruto in his base and Delta still wearing her robes, we see the kid gloves come off when Delta showcases that she not only has ninja tech eyes that can absorb ninjutsu, but her legs can also transform into extensions that she uses to send sneak attacks through the ground ground in the hopes of penetrating Naruto from behind.
Phrasing.
But Naruto senses the attack and immediately dodges it. Boruto realizes that Delta is a cyborg just like Kawaki. Whereas Kawaki modifies his arm, Delta modifies her leg. And Naruto jumps right into a 6-pass Sage Mode and QB Cloak combo to block her attack and even allows himself to be stabbed by her in order to test out the level of destructive damage of the attack, as well as keep her sturdy so that he can surprise her with his chakra arms. But Delta dodges that attack, and it's after the next exchange that Delta realizes that Naruto is holding back, intentionally allowing her to damage him so he can trick her into revealing more info, which annoys her to the point that she cuts on her chakra aura, and so too does Naruto. But as Naruto learns early on, he isn't the only one capable of playing tricks, because Delta, while she's throwing hands with Naruto, she grabs hold of his fist, forcing Naruto to kick her away and simultaneously dodge the Rasengan that she had previously absorbed outside of her eyes at point blank range. And like Boruto, you're probably stunned as to why Delta is this strong. Well, it goes back to both a plot point from Naruto's manga as well as the advancement of science, in particular what we touched on back in the Vessel arc, which is that these cyborgs are using Hashirama cells in a way that is far beyond anything Katasuke, Tsunade, and Konoha were able to do on their own. Whereas Konoha was only able to take Hashirama cells to be used as prosthetics like Naruto's arms and to make artificial organs, Amado got his hands on that technology and combined it with this nanotech to make artificial synthetic chakra pathway systems created via the nanotech to amplify the boost in power that you normally get from Hashirama cells, which the physical copies of Boruto's manga do a really good job of explaining how Konoha's bionic ninja tech works, and the anime reveals that Amado took Konoha's tech in order to make upgrades to the car inners. Even in Boruto, that meme that Hashirama cells fix all the plot holes still applies. That should add some context as to how Delta is able to continuously match blows with 6-pass chakra mode Naruto, take a hit from his lava release Rasen Shuriken, and the entire time Naruto's being very careful to contain the area destruction for his attacks and lead the battle away from Boruto Himawari. And we basically have Kawaki talking to the audience when he explains to a dumbfounded Boruto who can't grasp his father is stronger than Delta that Naruto was controlling the flow of battle in a way to contain the damage to prevent the kids from being harmed and keep all the fighting in one area in particular. Imagine if Naruto let that lava release Rasen Shuriken detonate in the direction of the Ninja Academy right behind the Hokage training ground. The headline the next morning in the newspaper would be "Local Hokage Kills School Children." We also see one of the laws from the 48 Laws of Power being applied here, which is that every man has a thumbscrew, a weakness that will be his undoing, and in this chapter we see that with Naruto is his children. Something that Naruto knows, which is why he tells Boruto, run away with Himawari before the fighting started. But despite Boruto being told by Kawaki that Naruto has the fight under control, Boruto tries to step in, which leads to Delta absolutely wrecking Boruto and attempting to kill Himawari in the most brutal of ways. She throws Himawari into the air, knowing full well that Naruto will jump up to save her from her chakra beams, and Naruto does just that. But we also see Boruto isn't the only one who underestimates Naruto, because Kawaki doesn't even give Naruto the chance to do anything else, but instead he moves off instinct to take the attack before it hits Naruto, which ends up destroying Kawaki's arm, leaving him with only one arm and on the verge of passing out, which takes the Naruto versus Delta fight to another level because Naruto is now genuinely pissed off, and he's vowing to take down Delta as well as kill the leader of KRYPTONIAN. And for the very first time in Boruto's life, he's seen Naruto extremely pissed off, and it shocks him. And gradually as the fight goes on, we see that while Naruto is huffing and puffing from exhaustion, he's beginning to push Delta's body to a point of overheating, like we saw when Kawaki first met Boruto. And Naruto smells blood right now, which is why he goes for a finishing move like he planned. A super giant Rasengan meant to push an exhausted Delta to a point where her ninja tech ends up overheating and shuts down, and Naruto sees the smoke coming out from her eye and various parts of her body, and Naruto backs off when he sees she can't absorb any more chakra and instead prepares another super giant Rasengan to destroy her, winning the stamina contest with Delta. And afterwards, Naruto tells us that while he was holding back in order to prevent killing her, he was still unaware as to if using killing intent would have been enough to defeat Delta in a way where the fight would have been easier, which is a sign of Delta's power. But in the aftermath of Naruto celebrating, Delta blows herself up and we see that drone that contains her consciousness fly back to the car hideout. However, what this fight does prove to us is that while Naruto was holding back, it was still enough for Kashin Koji to get an assessment of Naruto's power and state that Naruto, while he is strong, the fact that he had to use this much effort against Delta is why Kashin Koji is uncertain if Naruto can take down Jigen, which lines up with Kawaki's earlier statement. Naruto might be stronger than Jigen, keyword might be, and Koji's line about Naruto needing to use more power in order to defeat Jigen lines up with that. It's a toss-up at this point. While Naruto uses his chakra to attach one of the ninja tech arms that was made for him onto Kawaki's body, we see Delta's drone arrive back at the car hideout, land on a pedestal, and upload her consciousness to one of the second clones of her body, which leads to Delta debriefing Jigen on Naruto's strength. But on top of revealing that Kashin Koji wants to gather more intel, she also reveals that Boruto is the one who has the Karma Seal, which alarms Jigen and everyone else there. Because up until this point, he thought that only himself and Kawaki were the ones with Karma. But even more interesting is the fact that we get a sign of just how soft these times have actually dealt Naruto. We learned that following the battle with Momoshiki, Kar not only knew that Momoshiki had come to Earth, but they specifically were close enough to Naruto to verify whether or not Naruto had the Karma Seal in his body, because Code tells us that he'd been the one who checked in on Naruto, which means that Code, through methods that are related to his jutsu that we'll talk about later, was able to get inside of Konoha without even being detected to verify if Naruto had the Karma Seal in his body. And we learned that Jigen just assumed that it was Naruto or Sasuke who killed Momoshiki, and we see that Jigen is genuinely upset that Momoshiki was able to make Boruto into a vessel. It's at this point that we learn in the anime that Jigen is making preparations to personally deal with Naruto himself, and while Kawaki learns about Naruto's past, seeing how the two of them had similar upbringings as being viewed as being less than human, which makes Kawaki shed a tear in the process, we see that Sasuke has found himself inside of another Otsutsuki dimension and is alarmed by what he's found. In the background, there's a mural with the symbols of the Otsutsuki clan on it, and Sasuke recognizes all the horn patterns and begins to inspect them, touching the patterns and getting confirmation of each Otsutsuki via the hologram projection we see. Every full-blooded Otsutsuki who came to Earth is shown there, and Sasuke picks up on the pattern. They all came in pairs. Momoshiki and Kinshiki are there, and so is Kaguya, and Sasuke's mind begins to wander to first the two damaged Otsutsuki patterns of the two missing Otsutsuki, and then comes to a terrifying conclusion. Kaguya should have also had a partner as well. And it's here that we see not only Sasuke correct, but there's a 10 tails being held in this dimension. And before Sasuke can look too much into things, Jigen appears via a space-time jutsu to absorb chakra from the 10 tails. And when he does so, Jigen sprouts the horn of the same Otsutsuki who was Kaguya's partner, and Sasuke immediately panics, saying that he needs to go find Naruto. However, Jigen beats Sasuke to Naruto's house first and teleports himself literally right inside of Naruto's home wearing shoes via the connection of Kawaki's Karma Seal, which, as a side note, stepping into someone's house without removing your shoes in Japanese, that's a big no-no. But as we'll see, Jigen's also someone who has manners. He's apologizing for doing this, but he ain't gonna apologize for whooping Naruto's ass in a moment. It's the first sign that we have here that Jigen is bad news, because before Jigen even fully emerges, Ino falls over in that flower shop while she's speaking to Sarada and Sakura just from the mere presence of Jigen's chakra, and she isn't the only one spooked, because the moment that Jigen makes eye contact with Kashin Koji's toad that he was using to spy on Naruto, Koji very discreetly blows up the toad, hoping that Jigen didn't get a good look at it, which is our first sign that Koji has ulterior motives, because had he really been on Jigen's team, he would have just stacked the deck even further by assisting Jigen in his effort to retrieve Kawaki right before Naruto goes into a 6-pass sage mode and briefly fights and loses against Jigen outside of their home before getting teleported to another dimension. And just as Jigen attempts to leave Naruto stranded there, Sasuke shows up to give Naruto backup. However, Jigen is just laughing at Naruto and Sasuke as they both that they can fight at full power here in another dimension because they're not in the village, so they don't have to hold back. And while we do see that they are in a feeling out process, Naruto takes one hit from Jigen and he groans immediately, declaring that he had incredible strength. And Jigen proceeds to start making light work out of Naruto's shadow clones and holding off Naruto and Sasuke's combined mind attempts to tag team him, which the anime version of the fight shows us that Naruto uses 1,000 shadow clones between Jigen's own physical stats and his ability to summon microscopic chakra rods faster than Naruto can sense them coming in. The Sharingan struggles to track their speed until they resize at the last second. Naruto's clones are taken out pretty quickly, but as Sasuke breaks down Jigen's jutsu and reveals that Jigen can shrink himself and resize himself, Jigen suddenly looks at Sasuke and declares that his combination of the Sharingan and the Rinnegan and Sasuke's own analytical skills makes the most dangerous threat on the battlefield, and he's gonna kill Sasuke first. But Jigen also drops a line that many fans still overlook, which is that he casually mentions to Sasuke that Sasuke's Rinnegan jutsu make him dangerous, making it clear to Sasuke that he also knows about the 6 basic Rinnegan jutsu that every user has access to. It's a warning that this isn't someone that you can waste chakra on using the Rinnegan jutsu, similar to why Obito tells us in the 4th Ninja War he didn't use the Rinnegan jutsu against Naruto and Kakashi, Guy, and Killer Bee because he knows they know how to counter the jutsu. And to take it a step further, the battle at Momoshiki shows us, in particular the anime, that the strongest of the basic Rinnegan jutsu is useless because Momoshiki, who is weaker than Jigen, easily broke out of the Chibaku Tensei in the anime version of the fight. However, none of that matters because Sasuke proves Jigen right. He's the most dangerous one because when Jigen shrinks himself down and erases his chakra signature to prevent Naruto from sensing him, Sasuke, due to the Sharingan Eye of Insight, can see chakra as a color and is able to pinpoint Jigen's location. And while Naruto forces Jigen to use his karma in order to absorb Naruto's giant Rasengan, Sasuke draws his sword with the intention of killing Jigen because Sasuke's figured out another weakness to Jigen's jutsu that not even Jigen himself knew, which is that when he shrinks himself down and he absorbs chakra, he can't move quickly, which forces him to retreat via teleportation and warns Naruto and Sasuke that was their only chance to kill him. And after Sasuke reveals the existence of another Otsutsuki and the Ten Tails, Jigen laughs at the sight of Naruto and Sasuke going full power as he stares down Naruto's Kurama avatar and Sasuke's perfect Susanoo. Jigen isn't all talk either. He literally mocks the speed of the perfect Susanoo before he destroys it with a single kick, something that Kaguya's vacuum punch jutsu and Naruto Volume 71 needed multiple hits to accomplish, and he destroys Naruto's Kurama avatar with a single uppercut that's strong enough to knock the sonic rings out of Naruto. Even when Sasuke tries to use his instant teleportation of a main Teiji card, when he tries to lop off Jigen's head, it's too slow and Jigen blocks the attack, and he kicks Sasuke with enough might that he's unable to stand back up and he's coughing blood. It's only 2 hits, but he's able to completely knock 6 past Naruto out of his chakra mode and leave him injured enough that Naruto can't even stand back up on his own anymore, and Jigen proceeds to charge Sasuke with a killing blow after impaling him with chakra rods. And after Sasuke escapes, Kurama has to warn Naruto more than once to stop talking because Jigen can kill Naruto, despite Jigen's body literally cracking from the power that he's unleashing. Jigen once again shows us that Naruto does have a thumbscrew in the form of Boruto, because the moment that Jigen talks about targeting Naruto's son because Boruto has a karma seal, Naruto goes into a rage yet again, and Jigen promptly steals away Naruto. But we also learn something else. Jigen right now is in so much pain that he's crying, and a voice is speaking from within Jigen's body that is mocking him for being unworthy of being the vessel of Ishiki Otsutsuki. Now, this fight in itself is super controversial because we see overwhelming power from Jigen that was used to leave Naruto and Sasuke near death, and the guy only needed a few hits in order to do it. But there's a couple of things that we have to take note of. So this doesn't disprove Kawaki's line that Naruto might be stronger than Jigen, or that Koji's belief that the fight would be close, but Naruto might fall short, because Jigen right now is actually juiced up on the chakra of the Ten Tails, so he's stronger than he would be normally, which, as a reminder, we saw just how much of a boost a small bit of chakra from one half of the Nine Tails did for the Shinobi Alliance. Jigen basically did the same thing with the turbocharger. The other thing that pisses people off is the way that Naruto and Sasuke were defeated. It felt underwhelming for a lot of fans at first. If you're someone who is going, well, why didn't they use this jutsu, or why didn't they use that jutsu? I'll keep it really brief because I have a whole 18-minute video breaking down the fight called Why Jigen Won. But in short, you name the jutsu that Naruto possesses and that Sasuke has, and Jigen hard counters it. Everything from every Rasengan Naruto has to even Sasuke using something like Kirin. I recommend watching that video because it goes extremely in depth. Now, what we have here next is an interesting turn of events. With Naruto out of the village, Shikamaru shows up and immediately begins questioning Kawaki, and as Shikamaru steps into the temporary Hokage role, Jigen reveals to us back at the Kara hideout that he could have defeated Naruto and Sasuke at any moment, but he got carried away with playing around with them and states that he has a plan for Boruto and Kawaki to become full Utsuki and needs them to produce a god tree that destroys all life on the planet for a chakra fruit in exchange for Amato helping him. He says that Amato will get his deepest wish granted, which causes Amato to look over at Delta, which is a huge bit of foreshadowing. Meanwhile, after Sarada tells Kawaki that she understands Kawaki's love for Naruto, going so far as to say that she had times where she wished that Naruto would have been her father instead of Sasuke, and that there were times she was jealous of Boruto for having a father like Naruto and not appreciating him. Kawaki's karma seal goes off and we can see that he still senses Naruto's chakra, which leads to Team 7 ignoring Shikamaru's orders and following Kawaki through his time-space jutsu to the location where Naruto's sealed away, which brings us to the next major fight, Team 7 versus Boro. With this fight, we see both the rise of Sarada Uchiha as a fighter and a leader, but we also see that Jigen isn't the only card in her with a tendency to play around with weaker opponents. Boro also has the same problem as well. We see glimpses of this when he attempts to use the container Naruto sealed in as leverage to attack Kawaki and the others, and when battling the members of Team 7, instead of transforming and ending the fight right away, he just plays around with them. He's not using his lava release Kekkei Genkai for killing jutsu, and he chooses to slowly kill them by releasing a poison mist via his ninja tech into the air, which initially disables Boruto and Kawaki's bodies, which leads to Sarada watching the scene with the Sharingan and Mitsuki, catching on to the fact that it's a mist poison and taking advantage of the fact that he's Orochimaru's son, which means he has immunity to most poisons. And he does this by disguising his lightning release attack with his body modification jutsu to bite down on Boro's body to draw his blood and begin making an antidote. Meanwhile, Sarada literally snaps the cliff that she's standing on in half with a single attack off screen and throws the entire ledge at Boro in a feat of strength that is making Sakura proud somewhere, and she orders Mitsuki to grab Boruto's body and follow her and Kawaki so she can begin running the team as captain and playing their counter strategy. Armed with the knowledge of Boro's body being ninja tech like Kawaki's and the fact that the karma seal cannot absorb physically existing properties like this poison mist, which is a real virus, or water release that uses pre-existing water, Sarada has Mitsuki administer the antidote to everyone, and she uses her Sharingan to inform Team 7 that the mist in the air is filled with a microscopic virus, which is a reminder the Sharingan can see down on a cellular level. Sasuke also does this in the fight with Deidara, where he's able to see the bombs inside of his bloodstream. With Sarada activating her third Tomo Sharingan, we see that Sarada is bravely drawing Boro into a battle, countering his lava release with fireball jutsu, countering his water release with the fire release jutsu, and lulling him into a false sense of security so that Boruto and Kawaki can sneak attack him after she shoots a fire release jutsu at point blank range into Boro's face. However, Boro reveals that just like Delta, the ninja tech in his body has another hidden function, which is that in this case he has the ability to regenerate despite Boruto's Rasengan literally blowing apart half of Boro's upper body. Had that been any other normal shinobi, Boro would have been dead, but the ninja tech in his body enhances Boro's regeneration jutsu, and as Boro spams the regeneration jutsu, Sarada using her Sharingan is able to see the exact hand seals that are being weaved before the jutsu is used, and Kawaki tells her that every card in her, including himself, has ninja tech inside their body, and in particular every card in her has a ninja tech core, and it's the size of a heart, which leads to Sarada using her Sharingan to study Boro's movements, and after she finds out where the ninja tech core is, she impressively busts out a Chidori, and in the manga she does this without weaving any hand seals, something that we don't see Kakashi and Sasuke do until part 2 of Naruto, which is a testament to Sarada's strength right now. And she manages to destroy Boro's core before he can weave the hand seal for the regeneration jutsu, but after his ninja tech core is destroyed, while Team 7 unseals Naruto with the intention of having Naruto defeat Boro, Boro enters into an unstable transformation and displays how much power he was actually holding back. With a single attack, attack, he knocks Mitsuki unconscious and with another hit does the same to Kawaki, and after he squeezes Sarada and breaks her bones in her body to prevent her from standing back up, Boro punches Boruto into the ground, but in doing so he's crossed the line by waking up Momoshiki, who takes over Boruto's body and easily destroys Boro, blowing apart his arm with a single kick and destroys him with a regular Rasengan that leaves behind a crater the same size as the one that Naruto used when he killed Delta, and the members of Team 7 are left shocked as Momoshiki gives back control to Boruto, but not without the warning that the time where Boruto loses everything is approaching. 2 days later, after Naruto finally recovers from the Jigen fight, we learn that Kashin Koji is planning to kill Jigen, who damaged his body enough fighting Naruto that he's only at 10% power, and while Amato negotiates his way into Konoha, offering information in exchange for citizenship and protection, Jigen is confronted by Kashin Koji, and we learn that Koji's fear of Jigen, knowing that he was a spy, has been correct. Jigen tells Koji he knew all along that Victor wasn't behind the airship crashing, and he merely allowed Koji to do as he pleased so as to see how far the deception went, and through process of elimination knows that Amato was the one helping him. While Koji enters into an intense battle with Jigen that gives off classic Naruto vibes of the move hidden behind the move, where Koji's using distractions in order to plant exploding toads on the Jigen. He's planting summoning seals all around the battlefield to summon fire. Amato is in Konoha dropping bombshell after bombshell to Naruto and Sasuke, all while bluffing to Shikamaru that there's an exploding collar around Shikadai's neck. Amato reveals that Kaguya did come to Earth with a partner, and that partner was named Ishiki, but due to unknown reasons, Kaguya waited for Ishiki to lower his guard so she could sneak attack him and leave him near death, showing that this was somebody Kaguya herself didn't even want to fight head up in a 1 versus 1 battle. Kaguya, as the lower rank Otsutsuki, was expected to find a vessel to give karma, feed herself to the Ten Tails, Ishiki harvest that chakra fruit, and Kaguya would revive herself into the body of her vessel. Yet Kaguya decided she wanted the fruit for herself, and so she turned on Ishiki. This resulted in Ishiki finding Jigen and shrinking himself down to go into Jigen's ear and surviving off the nutrients of Jigen's body while simultaneously implanting karma onto Jigen, which is how a mere monk was able to live for 1,000 years. His body is no longer human. However, he drops another bombshell by stating that Momoshiki's karma seal on Boruto is a huge problem and tells Naruto, you need to kill your son because there's no way to remove the karma. The karma seal continuously extracts the genetic data of the Otsutsuki into the body of the vessel, and after it hits 100%, if the Otsutsuki's dead, which in this case Momoshiki is dead, he will revive back into his original form using Boruto's body stronger than before, gaining the additional power that Boruto possesses and the knowledge of his jutsu, but when this happens, Boruto's soul will cease to exist. So theoretically, if Momoshiki's karma hits 100% and he revives using Boruto's body, Boruto's soul wouldn't even exist, which means that Minato and Kushina don't even meet their grandson in the afterlife because Boruto has no soul to even go to the afterlife. However, while Naruto gets worked up over this, Sasuke continues to poke holes in Amato's story, saying that shouldn't Kawaki have the same problem? Why don't we just kill Kawaki as well? Which we learn more of Amato's plan when he shows the fight of Kashin Koji versus Jigen to Naruto and Sasuke. Koji knows how to kill an Otsutsuki, which is by summoning natural elements that the karma can absorb, and while Jigen is the vessel of an Otsutsuki, he's also literally someone who has a Otsutsuki physically inside of his body. So if you kill Jigen, you also kill Ishiki. While Naruto watches the battle, he's breaking out into a cold sweat because his soul knows something that is wrong about Kashin Koji, because his fighting style reminds Naruto of Jiraiya, and Naruto has a strong urge to assist him, which is why he gets pissed off when Amato confirms he never expected Kashin Koji to win. It was a suicide mission, in particular for the next battle that comes after killing Jigen. When Jigen dies, Ishiki revives into Jigen's body, and we learn that even if the body of the karma seal is simply a corpse, as long as that corpse has a fully extracted karma seal, which in this case Jigen did, then that corpse can be used as a means for resurrection, which is why he told them to kill Boruto now, because Boruto's karma isn't 100% yet, so there's still a chance to prevent Momoshiki from reviving. However, when Ishiki revives into Jigen's body, Kawaki, who has the karma seal, his karma seal vanishes due to a safeguard that Otsutsuki had to prevent there from being multiple copies of an Otsutsuki. And Amato tells Naruto and Sasuke that under no circumstances must they allow Ishiki to implant the karma seal back on the Kawaki's body, because while Jigen is an imperfect vessel, Kawaki's body, due to unknown reasons, can contain Ishiki's chakra, and that if he revives using Kawaki's body, no one can stop Ishiki. Amato tells him that due to Ishiki being forced to revive into Jigen's body, that eventually the body itself will be destroyed. They have to outlast Ishiki for 48 hours and somehow prevent him from finding Kawaki, but he also states that Boruto's fate is a dark one, even if Boruto's left alive. On one hand, if Momoshiki is revived, Boruto's soul no longer exists. On the other hand, if Boruto is left alive and Ishiki gets his hands on Boruto, he can just feed Boruto to the 10 tails to harvest a chakra fruit. So in short, it doesn't matter what Boruto does, because as things are right now, he's dying either way. This is heartbreaking on a few different levels, because when we learn this information, we also learn that Kashin Koji is a clone of Jiraiya, which means that Naruto was basically watching the battle of his genetic godfather, where the expectation was that he would be killed off. And while Kashin Koji puts up a valiant effort, even showing a better handle of using Sage Mode than Jiraiya ever had, he ultimately loses his arm while fighting Ishiki and has to retreat with no confirmation as if he's alive or dead, which this should explain to you why Konoha couldn't sense Kashin Koji was inside the village as an enemy, because Kashin Koji technically has Jiraiya's chakra. Ishiki then undergoes a wardrobe change, he drinks his wine and teleports himself into Konoha to look for Kawaki. After he takes down a couple of Jonin while he's searching for Kawaki, Naruto rushes to the scene, and as Naruto's battling Ishiki, Boruto shares his fears with Sasuke, which is that he's worried that Momoshiki will take over his body and that Momoshiki might kill his loved ones, and Sasuke makes a vow as Boruto's teacher that if that ever happened, Sasuke would kill him. Naruto's battle with Ishiki quickly results in a chunk of the village being destroyed, and Naruto realizing that Ishiki's a lot stronger than Jigen, but due to tag team work by Boruto and Sasuke, Boruto being transformed into Sasuke's sword that's thrown at Ishiki, Boruto's able to teleport him to Momoshiki's dimension, and Sasuke, using the Rinnegan, takes Naruto and follows after them. However, you might be asking yourself, well, if they weren't able to beat Jigen, then what chance do they have against someone even stronger than Jigen? Simply put, they don't have a chance. However, that doesn't matter, and if you know Naruto's character, you know that this really doesn't matter at all. No matter how dark the situation looks, Naruto's going to push through, and while Ishiki doesn't have a karma, he still has a dojutsu that allows him to shrink himself in ninjutsu, and as we see, when Sasuke swaps himself and Boruto with the main Teiji car, Ishiki is fast enough to casually snatch Sasuke's Chidori in mid-air at point-blank range, and this leads to Naruto bravely trying to fight Ishiki on his own in order to protect his son, because Sasuke has momentarily lost consciousness. Despite this overwhelming power, Naruto pushes forward because he knows they need to survive for 48 hours, which is enough time for Ishiki's body to destroy itself. So we see that the man who was once the boy who said he had the guts to never give up take the ultimate gamble on his stamina, saying that he can hold up for 48 hours against someone that's stronger than the guy who left him near death with only 2 hits the last time. This is probably the biggest testament to Naruto's indomitable spirit. We see that, like Jigen, Ishiki has a tendency to play around, and each time Naruto and Sasuke think they got the upper hand on him, Ishiki does things like casually summon chakra cubes out of nowhere, then move fast enough that Sasuke's Rinnegan can barely track it, and they outright negate Naruto's 6-pass sensory skills. However, one thing we see is that Ishiki took note of the fight that Jigen had with Naruto and Sasuke. Sasuke might be weaker than Naruto, but if there's a weakness with any jutsu, Sasuke will be the one who finds it and finds a counter to it, and so Ishiki moves to kill Sasuke first. But with Boruto being the smart kid that he is, he realized that if he throws himself over Sasuke's body, Ishiki won't kill Sasuke because he can't afford to kill Boruto. However, when Boruto tries to bluff against Ishiki saying that he's willing to kill himself, Ishiki takes note of Boruto's hesitancy, because if Boruto had wanted to kill himself, he could have done it already. He didn't need to announce what he would do. And it's because he hasn't yet shown that he has the resolve of a shinobi to give up his life. It leads to Ishiki shrinking Boruto's kunai, breaking his arm, and once again knocking Sasuke unconscious, but due to his tendency to play, he doesn't kill Sasuke, instead opting to drive Boruto into despair by making him suffer by watching Ishiki continuously beat Naruto and Sasuke to the brink of unconsciousness, wait for them to wake back up, and do it all over again. Meanwhile, Kurama tells Naruto about one jutsu that can be used to give Naruto the power to defeat Ishiki, that can be used because Naruto has such a strong will to give his life to ensure Ishiki's death. death, which is Baryon mode, a power that Kurama says will result in death. Naruto drops one of the coldest lines we'll ever see him say in the manga after he saves Boruto, which is that he's been prepared to die from the very moment he declared he wanted to be Hokage. And after Kurama forms a hand seal, Naruto's entire chakra cloak turns into a vibrant dark orange and red color, and right away Ishiki knows that Naruto is different than before. So a quick rundown of Baryon mode is that in exchange for the chakra of the caster, it creates a new type of chakra similar to nuclear fusion that consumes parts of chakra from Naruto as well as all the chakra from Kurama to power this new form that Kurama describes as being on a different level than Kurama mode or Six Path Sage mode. But here's the thing, Kurama's lying. The jutsu does come at the expense of the user, but it's only at the expense of the Biju, not the Jinchuriki. But due to Kurama knowing that Naruto would never use this jutsu otherwise, Kurama withholds this information because it's the only way to defeat Ishiki. Given that Boruto borrows so heavily from science, it's also worth noting that the reddish orange color of Naruto's chakra cloak now represents the colors that come from the cycle of a star, which is fitting since Naruto is fighting someone who comes from the stars themselves. Naruto's cloak has the same red color of a red supergiant star, but it also has shades of the bright orange mixed into it, which is the next stage after the red supergiant star, and the result of this transformation is death after it burns out, which the next stage after the supernova is either a neutron star or a black hole. It's poetic given that Kurama dies in exchange for this power. Right away we see that Naruto is in just a different league. While in the manga he can't perform ninjutsu because of the extreme focus required on this form being maintained, he doesn't need to use any ninjutsu. Naruto just using taijutsu is bullying Ishiki, and all of his stats get a major amp, including his eyesight. Basically, Naruto has better eyes than Sasuke's Sharingan and Rinnegan combination because Naruto is casually snatching chakra rods out the air and deflecting them at speeds that Sasuke reveals he can barely keep up with each punch that Naruto lands on Ishiki. This form also eats away at the lifespan of the target. So think of it like a video game. Imagine if you land a punch on someone, you expect their health bar to go down. However, in this case with Naruto, he doesn't just get the normal attack damage to the health bar, but he also gets another double hit just for hitting you. And by the time that Ishiki realizes this, he begins to panic because he sees that playing around with Naruto and Sasuke is what put him in this position, and Ishiki realizes that he's almost out of lifespan, but he ends up catching a break. This form is just like the 8th gate from Naruto's manga. It gives a monster stat increase, but it cannot be used for a long period of time. After only a few hits on Ishiki, Naruto is struggling to maintain the form. His stamina is dropping rapidly, and Ishiki uses the opportunity to slam Naruto onto the ground, and due to Kawaki wearing that ninja tech arm of Naruto that is connected to Naruto's chakra, Ishiki is able to reverse summon Kawaki to him, and after Kawaki heeds Naruto's warning to run away, Ishiki literally stomps Naruto out of Baryon mode and he blitzes Kawaki. However, Sasuke, knowing that they've almost run out the clock on Ishiki, uses his Ameno Teiji card to swap places with Kawaki and orders him to throw the ninja tech smoke bomb that was developed that blocks the visual powers of all dojutsu that stays in effect for a few minutes. So basically things like the Byakugan's 360-degree field of vision, the Sharingan's ability to anticipate movements and see things on a cellular level, those powers are completely blocked, but things like Amaterasu can still be used, which means that nobody can use their dojutsu properly right now, and that includes Ishiki, and it just becomes a matter of Kawaki staying in hiding long enough for the clock to run out. But Ishiki is now in full-blown panic mode, and he flies down from the sky and stomps on Naruto's chest and is threatening to rip out Naruto's heart if Kawaki doesn't show himself within 20 seconds. I'd very strongly recommend watching Boruto anime episode 217 to watch the flashback that Kawaki has of being tortured by Jigen and the PTSD attack that was used during the sequence, because Boruto episodes 216, 217, and 218 literally have the most animation work done in the entire Naruto franchise. I strongly recommend watching them. In the end, Kawaki tricks Ishiki with the Shadow Clone, and this is where we need to remember what the stories just told us. Ishiki has the Byakugan and an unnamed dojutsu, so your knee-jerk reaction be like, how did he fall for a Shadow Clone? He can just use Byakugan to see it's a clone. But it's important to remember that the particles that block dojutsu abilities are still in the smoke clouds that are in the area. This is why Ishiki cannot verify if it's a clone or not, and this is important to remember for what happens after Ishiki is killed. In the panel where Sasuke's asking Naruto, are you okay? There are still clouds left in the area, which means that anyone with the dojutsu can't use their visual powers to see things for perception, which is why Sasuke's Sharingan's cut off, and that's what opens up the door for Momoshiki to destroy Sasuke's Rinnegan. This was a perfect storm. Sasuke's guard is lowered because he's concerned about Naruto, because Naruto's in a state that appears to be very similar to someone who's slipping into death. In his mind, the only threat on the battlefield was Ishiki, who has now been killed, and at the time, they did not know that Boruto giving up control to Momoshiki is linked directly to Boruto being low on chakra. Add in you have remnants of the dojutsu suppressant Smoke Bomb, and the Rinnegan goes poke poke. We see Momoshiki battle against Kawaki and a severely injured Sasuke, and Sasuke recalls his promise to kill Boruto in the event that Momoshiki takes over, and Sasuke, being as observant as he is, notices that when he uses the Chidori Stream and Amaterasu, Momoshiki never tries to absorb the attack, and he gets confirmation when he uses a fireball jutsu that leads to Momoshiki going into hiding, and so Sasuke reveals his plan to stop Kawaki from being captured by Momoshiki, which is that he's going to force Momoshiki to absorb ninjutsu because Sasuke suspects that Boruto running out of chakra is the key to Momoshiki taking control, and Momoshiki gets pissed off when he realizes that Sasuke has figured out forcing Momoshiki to absorb chakra can give Boruto back his body. However, when Momoshiki realizes that Sasuke is cutting his Sharingan off, he tags him with the Vanishing Rasengan and proceeds to start bullying Kawaki until Kawaki shows us he's not like Boruto. Whereas Boruto is afraid to kill himself, Kawaki has the resolve to do so, and he sets himself on fire, knowing that if Momoshiki does nothing, then Kawaki dies. If Momoshiki absorbs the chakra, then there's a chance that Boruto takes back control of his body, which is exactly what happens. And in the aftermath of this, we see Naruto meet with Kurama in the Biju Sanctuary for the first time, and we have a rather awkward encounter with Naruto and Kurama in the manga that is handled a lot better in the anime in episode 218. But essentially, Naruto, upon realizing that this is the end of the road for him, Naruto reflects on all his regrets, and he reflects on everything that he and Kurama have been through, and he shares his worries about the future of the village and Boruto and Kawaki, to which Kurama tells him,
"Listen, Naruto, I think you've got the wrong idea."
Kurama says that burial mode is different than what happens when the Biju chakra inside of a Jinchuriki is extracted. Burial mode gives the outward appearance of Naruto being dead, but in this instance, it's only Kurama's chakra that is being consumed by the jutsu, and so it's only Kurama's life that ends, and he warns Naruto,
"You won't have superhuman strength anymore, and you won't have me to help you out either."
which is just a reference to Naruto not being able to use Kurama's chakra or the chakra of the 9 Biju. Naruto on his own is still extremely powerful, and if you think Naruto's suddenly back to Pain Arc levels of power, I recommend watching my How Strong is Naruto Without Kurama video. Now, killing off Kurama is actually beautiful writing if you know Masashi Kishimoto's tendency to borrow very heavily on Asian folklore and religion. Normally, Biju can't die a traditional death. They die, and then due to them being pure chakra, they just get reborn and they reform somewhere else out in the wild several years later. However, burial mode is different for more than just it kills the Biju. It's also a power that we see used in the sequel of a series, Naruto, that is a story of samsara on multiple levels, from the powers that we see from the Rinnegan to the samsaric cycle of life, death, and rebirth that we saw in the 9 Biju to multiple elements in Naruto's story. There are elements of samsara throughout all 72 volumes of Naruto's manga. However, with Ishiki being the boss of Kage, the woman who mothered 2 children that were born with chakra, and one of those children was the one who gave chakra to the world, and so much of the powers that come from Hagoromo having done that, and by extension the story elements that are coming from the 6 paths and samsara, Ishiki's dojutsu is something you have to pay more attention to so you can appreciate Kurama dying. This eye is patterned after the Dharma wheel, better known as the 8 trifold path. It basically goes above samsara for the Buddha, reaching a higher plane above things like life, death, and rebirth. Naruto, someone who previously used 6 path sage mode, a samsaric rooted power, needed to go above that concept to combat someone who has the Dharma wheel pattern eye, which is why burial mode was brought into the equation in the way that it was and had the price that it did. It might be easy to say, wait, you're thinking way too deeply on this, but when you realize how many characters and jutsu and story elements, designs for characters, and many other references that are baked into the Naruto story borrowed directly from Shinto and Asian Asian religions and folklore, you can see why I say this is a deliberate choice by Kishimoto, who as of chapter 53 of the manga officially takes back over the duties of writing the manga after previously only supervising the script and checking over the storyboard. Now, the death of Kurama and Naruto being embraced by Boruto following Kurama's death is the start of us going into the final act of Boruto Part 1. If you recall, Boruto tells us in the first chapter that Part 1 of the story is the story of him and his dad, and up until this point, it's felt very much like that. The story of a father and son. But now, with Naruto having lost Kurama and Boruto being confirmed 80% of Suzuki, there's no end in sight. We're beginning to transition over to it being just the story of Boruto, but Naruto's role in the story, it isn't over yet. And in all honesty, the next two arcs explore a very interesting case study for Naruto's character. Up until this point in the story, Naruto's been the strongest guy around. There wasn't anyone prior to Jigen who could truly challenge his power. But even then, Naruto had the power to defend the village. But through the fights with Jigen and Ishiki, Naruto for the first time felt something he hasn't felt since he battled Madara, which is true helplessness. And right now, Naruto's facing helplessness on multiple levels. It isn't just that he's no longer able to use the power of a Jinchuriki anymore, but he's also got his greatest thumbscrew, which is that his children, in particular Boruto, are people that he can't protect anymore. No parent wants their child to suffer, and parents will do anything possible to avoid their children suffering, going so far as to take on the suffering of that child themselves if they can. But with Naruto, he can't physically stop the boogeyman that is tormenting his son, because that boogeyman, Momoshiki, is literally inside of Boruto's genetics. And with each waking moment, Boruto's own genetics are being erased. This isn't a threat that Naruto can defeat with the Rasengan. And unfortunately, when Naruto goes back to Kurama, he's told that, and we see that the story circles back to the earlier conflict of the Boruto era that goes all the way back to Naruto chapter 700, which is that Naruto's story right now is struggling as both a father and Hokage. We see this when Gar flat out tells Naruto, look man, if Momoshiki is reborn and is stronger than before, you're not going to beat him, and we're not going to be able to help you beat him either. The whole world will end. And out of all the Kage in that Kage summit talking to Naruto, Gar is the only one who has the right to tell him that. He himself is the son of the Kaze Kage who tried to kill Gar when he became a threat to the village. He himself is the Kaze Kage who approached Naruto after the 5 Kage summon and said, look, when you're Hokage, you're gonna have to make tough decisions that will affect lives. And in that moment, he was talking about killing Sasuke. However, this time, Gar is also speaking to Naruto as a father himself, telling Naruto, hey, as hard as this is, your son's gotta go, and you need to kill him now. Boruto episode 220 explores this conflict in great detail, with Naruto having a full-blown panic attack when he's holding Boruto, who at this point in the story is so afraid to go to sleep because he's worried about Momoshiki taking over and killing his family, and Boruto doesn't feel comfortable going to sleep until he's being held in Naruto's arms. And we see Naruto go into a full-blown panic attack. The whole world's telling him he has to kill his son, and his son is so scared that he only feels safe when he's in his father's arms. While Boruto's story has been him slowly losing everything and learning what it means to be a shinobi, Naruto's story is continuing to be the story of struggling with his duties as Hokage as well as his duty as a father. However, Naruto for the time is being spared the impossible decision of choosing the world or his son because Amato steps in with Byakugan suppressant drugs, revealing that this is how he was able to slow down Kawaki's karma extraction while he plotted to kill Jigen, and warns Naruto, don't let your wife or daughter take these drugs because it will be lethal to them because they have Byakugan, but in the case of Boruto, this will slow it down. It's not a magic pill that stops Boruto from becoming Otsutsuki, but at the very least, it buys Naruto the time to find a cure or to figure out something in terms of what he's going to do next with Boruto, which leads us to the Code Assault arc. The beauty of this arc is that while we do start the process of Naruto taking a backseat, the sins of Naruto's past are starting to catch up to him, and it's the expression that the sins of the father are paid by the son, all coming to life in this arc where Boruto finally learns what it means to be a shinobi. We open up the Code arc being greeted by the ghost of Ishiki, whose soul has managed to find its way to Code, despite Code being an imperfect vessel, having a bootleg karma seal that only gives him a chakra boost and cannot be used as a means for Ishiki to resurrect himself. Code, despite never having seen Ishiki before, recognizes who he is right away, and Ishiki states the irony that the one person who should have been the most useless to him is the only one who can help him carry out his will. He tells Code to get revenge on those who killed Jigen and those who killed himself. He tells him to either feed Boruto or Kawaki to the Ten Tails that Code is guarding in that Ten Tails dimension, and then go forward and carry out the Otsutsuki clan will by consuming chakra fruit after chakra fruit in order to make himself into a god. In hindsight, Code being the one here in this dimension is actually something foreshadowed. So if we go all the way back to that chapter where Sasuke first finds that Otsutsuki dimension, when you look at Ishiki's horn at the top of that stone monument, you can see an X in the middle of the horn, and that X is the marker for Code's space-time jutsu, which we'll touch on later. Meanwhile, as Code is talking to Ishiki, we have two very important conversations going on with Amato speaking to Naruto and Shikamaru, and Kawaki speaking to Boruto. Amato has given over all the information that he has on Car and intel on Code, including the remaining hideouts and names of all the Car inners operating on the continent, which SAIYAN and the Anbu Black Ops have been rounding up, but Code has been destroying the basis of the Car inners and outers before Konoha can find them. Amato tells Naruto and Shikamaru that Code is special because he isn't like the other Car inners. He, like Boruto, has a Karma Seal, but it's for a different reason. Back when Kawaki and Code were part of the same batch of children that were experimented on to see who could take the Karma Seal of Ishiki, Code's body initially rejected the Karma Seal after accepting the seal itself, and this process, it almost killed him like the other children, but somehow Code survived and gained the benefits of karma without having the price of genetic extraction. This led to Code viewing it as a divine act and him worshiping Ishiki as a god and having a fondness for Jigen as his vessel, but hating Kawaki due to Kawaki having karma, but despising the Otsutsuki clan and not appreciating what Code viewed as being a divine gift. The other thing that Amato tells us is that Code is special for a different reason besides having the Karma Seal. He's also stronger than Jigen, but so as to not upset the power structure of Car, he has self-imposed limiters placed on his body to bring his power level down below Jigen's, which led to Amato revealing he had several cyborgs who were stronger than Jigen, but Jigen ordered all those people to be killed because Jigen rightfully suspected that Amato was trying to double cross him, which is how Amato ended up cloning Jiraiya, making Kashi and Koji into a cyborg who can kill Jigen. In hindsight, Amato's plan, it would have worked, overwhelming Jigen with numbers and kill Jigen in the hopes that a high number of beyond Jigen level cyborgs would be enough to take down Ishiki when he was reborn in Jigen's body. Despite being weaker than Ishiki, they basically just need to outlast him for 48 hours like Naruto and Sasuke attempted to do. It wasn't a bad plan, but just as we'll see with Naruto, this will be one of those situations where the sins of the father are paid back by the child. Meanwhile, Kawaki tells Boruto the story of Code, but it takes an even darker turn. Kawaki says, hey, we got rid of my karma, but you're still gonna turn into Otsutsuki, so why not use their methods against them? Transplant your own Karma Seal onto someone else. That way, when Momoshiki revives into your body, you can just revive using someone else's body. Boruto is hesitant to accept that suggestion, and it goes back to the nature versus nurture thing. Boruto, being the son of Naruto, would never think of putting someone else through the curse that he's had to live with, just as Boruto's own grandmother was pissed off when Minato suggested making Naruto into a Jinchuriki. She did not wish that level of pain on her son. However, Boruto begins looking for a reason to push back on this idea, saying that Code already has a karma, so it might not work, but Kawaki's reasoning is simple. Code has already survived having karma placed on him before. The key to putting a karma on someone is to pick someone with the right body so it doesn't break down. Code isn't a good guy and nobody's gonna miss him. It's a mortality question when it comes to humanity itself. Is someone's life really worth less because they're an enemy? Is someone's life really worth less because they've been a bad person in the past and they might be a bad person currently? Is their future life suddenly now forfeit? Can they never change? Boruto doesn't like the idea of taking this option, even for someone like Code, and he tells Kawaki the elephant in the room. Naruto no longer has the Nine Tails. He won't be as strong as he would be before, and they can't continue to depend on him forever. But he says in times like this, Shinobi train, which is what they're gonna do, and Boruto ends up buying himself more time by accepting the Byakugan drugs from Amato in order to push back on Momoshiki taking over his body. However, in the background we see that Code has made his way into Boro's hideout in the Land of Snow and immediately shows us the depths of his power, in particular his claw mark jutsu. It basically works like the Flying Raijin, but it isn't as good as the Flying Raijin, but it also is a little bit more versatile than the Flying Raijin in some areas. Just as Minato needs to mark a location or a person person in order to teleport to it, so too does Code, but it's not so much as he's teleporting as he's traveling between the claw marks himself. Unlike the flying Raijin, where Minato can teleport to places that don't even have his markers so long as his chakra's connected to it, Code can't actually do that. He has to have physically placed the claw mark somewhere. Code quickly takes down Boro's henchman and demands that the car outer Bug, who's overseeing the facility, take him to the teenage girl Ada, the one who Code says is the girl who knows everything. Now, normally when you hear something like this, your immediate reactions go, this is clearly hyperbole. They don't literally mean everything. However, with Ada, there's actually quite a bit of merit to that, and we learn as much when she's been unsealed and Code attempts to attack her, but right when he goes forward with trying to finish off the attack, his body betrays him and he's unable to attack her, and it's because of her powers. While Ada is staring at the mirror brushing her teeth, Bug explains to Code that Ada has already stolen his heart, and when Ada rejoins them, she further explains it to them. When Amato modified her body, the ninja tech placed inside of her resulted in her having the ability to captivate people, placing control of their hearts in her hands. This is a result that leads to Ada basically making everyone who sees her not only fall in love with her, but they cannot lift a finger to physically harm her, because if they try to do so, it will just result in their heart fighting the command, and the conflicting order between the brain saying to attack her and the heart being in love with her means that the brain will end up destroying itself in the process. However, like all jutsu, there's a weakness to her power, but her weakness is so tiny that there's only a short list of people who can exploit it. Blood relatives and Otsutsuki clan members, or people who have Otsutsuki genetics like Boruto and Kawaki because they're Otsutsuki vessels. Ada also reveals that her Senrigan has the ability to see all things that happen in the present and all things in the past up until the moment of her birth, which was 16 years ago. She refers to it like watching a surveillance camera, except the entire world itself is her surveillance camera. But most of the things she sees makes her bored, except for the moment she laid eyes on Kawaki killing Ishiki by tricking him with the shadow clone. That one moment turned her on because it provided her with a sense of excitement, and she tells Code that in exchange for getting Kawaki to her, she will help him destroy Naruto, Sasuke, and get Boruto fed to the Ten Tails, but she implies she wants to be the one who kills Amato. While Ada and Code form their alliance, we see the further breaking down of Boruto and Kawaki. Naruto is once again overseeing the training of Team 7, but this time he's rejoined by their actual squad leader Konohamaru. Team 7 is focused on chakra control training via meditation, and Sarada is leading the team through the drills, but Kawaki shifts the training to actual combat training using a level of force that Boruto says is lethal force, and this leads to Konohamaru getting ready to step in before Naruto tells him to step down and let this one-on-one fight between Boruto and Kawaki play out, which leads to Boruto cutting on his karma seal to take the edge over Kawaki, and we see visible frustration from Kawaki that he doesn't have the power of karma anymore. And we see that the subtle gaslighting that Amato did during the Ishiki battle has taken effect because Kawaki is growing more and more restless. Like Naruto, he, for the first time in a very long time, is without the power that he's grown accustomed to. And like Naruto, he can't use that power to protect what's most precious to him. For Naruto, it's his son that he chose over the entire world. And for Kawaki, that person is Naruto, the man who showed him what a father's love looks like. Ada, over the course of the next 2 chapters, watches Kawaki's attachment towards Naruto grow, and she makes it a point to ask Code if it's possible to spare Naruto because she thinks Kawaki will hate her if she helps Code kill Naruto, and that Kawaki's love for Naruto is adorable. As you expect, Code refuses, and Ada continues to watch things at the Uzumaki household closely, waiting for the right moment to send Code after Kawaki. And what we see here is that while Ada isn't a fan of Code, for the time being he's useful, and she's the one who's serving as the brains of this relationship, but she understands a valuable lesson that Naruto Part 1 teaches us, which is that there's no more valuable commodity than having intel, and Ada's using all the power that she has to gather intel so they can formulate a plan to capture Kawaki, but she's also weighing the options on the worst case scenario, assuming that Code fails to deliver on his promise. The manga doesn't implicitly tell us right here, but the narrative makes it pretty clear that seeing the interactions with Naruto and Kawaki, where Naruto calls Kawaki his stupid son, you can tell to a degree that seeing Kawaki in this family unit gave Ada something she's been longing for, a true, genuine connection. And that brings us to the second of the cyborgs that Jigen ordered to be destroyed because their powers exceeded his own, which is Ada's younger brother Damon. When Ada reluctantly reluctantly allows Code to unseal a younger brother. She makes it clear that this isn't something she wanted, and Bug is freaking out under the prospect of Damon being unleashed because, in short, he cannot be controlled, and due to how powerful this 6-year-old little cyborg is, it spells trouble because he's literally the strongest person right now in Boruto. He's weaker than Ishiki and Baryon Naruto, but he's stronger than Jigen by a wide margin. And right away, he shows that his sister isn't the only one with overpowered ability. Just by touching someone, anyone in the area, Damon's able to reflect all attacks that are coming at him. While we don't get specifics on what went down in the past, we do know that Ada did not want Damon unsealed, and when we dive into Kishimoto's penchant for Shinto references, it makes sense why these two siblings have a rather interesting dynamic, which I'm going to keep very brief to explain to you. Damon and Ada are the Shinto siblings Susanoo and Amaterasu. Susanoo being the wild rambunctious brother, and Ada being Amaterasu, the sister who runs inside of a cave, and when she gets out of the cave, she gives into her vanity by looking into a mirror because she's infatuated with her own beauty. Damon and Ada are sealed away inside of a cave in Boro's hideout, and the first thing that Ada does when she gets unsealed is go into a bathroom to look into a mirror, and has hinted at having a turbulent relationship with her brother. But when we see Damon, at least from his perspective, the only thing he's guilty of is being overprotective of his sister, but there's a strong implication that these two had a falling out at some point, just as Susanoo and Amaterasu had several falling outs. While Code is slowly building up allies and Sasuke's beginning his own independent investigation into tracking down Code, Kawaki's behavior towards Naruto gets called out by Shikamaru and Amato as being unnatural, with them saying it's one thing for Kawaki to view Naruto as a father, but what's going on now based off the observation is that it's completely unnatural, especially after Kawaki begins to act more distant and detached when he hears from Amato that while Amato can't be for certain who would win between Naruto and Code, Amato thinks that Naruto stands a chance at losing, which basically starts a process of Kawaki getting driven into despair, which explains why he lashed out at the members of Team 7, stating that training isn't enough to catch up to Code because ninja training isn't enough. It's actually ironic to see Kawaki be this obsessed with Naruto and everyone else actually sees it, but he himself doesn't understand the true nature of shinobi culture, or why someone like Naruto is actually Hokage, despite him living with Naruto and being Naruto's student. He's quick to write everything off, and that's what leads to him acting in extreme manners, which is taking matters into his own hand. Boruto decided not to listen to him and make Code into a vessel. Instead, he chose to take the Byakugan drugs. Team 7 opted not to listen to him by training in the way that Jigen trained Kawaki, opting for more traditional shinobi training. Naruto didn't listen to him when he said that he wanted to leave the village, so now Kawaki says, fine, I'll just leave the village on my own. Who's gonna stop me? And it's actually something really sad to see, because you see that Kawaki does not understand what Naruto meant when he said that if someone like you can't feel safe in the Hidden Leaf Village when I'm Hokage, then there was no purpose in me being Hokage, because Naruto wanted to be Hokage to prevent something like this from happening to someone like Kawaki. The village is supposed to be a safe place for Kawaki, and yet Kawaki takes what Naruto tells him and he just runs away. And it's a really heartbreaking scene because Naruto's whole thing to Kawaki is that you are now in a safe place, and you can tell at this point that Kawaki does not have faith in Naruto, but he also wants to protect Naruto. And when Boruto gets wind of the fact that Kawaki's left, he tries to tell Naruto, hey, Kawaki has left the house, but because they're still using chakra sensory methods to try and track Kawaki, they think that Kawaki's still inside the home, and Naruto is thinking that Boruto's just trying to play another prank, which leads to Boruto chasing after Kawaki and getting the bright idea, I'll leave the village and I'll have them track my location and I will find Kawaki. And unbeknownst to Boruto, Kawaki has gone to Code to try and barter a deal to have Code spare the Hidden Leaf Village in exchange for just taking Kawaki. And this is what ultimately leads to Boruto versus Code, and we get a lot of information in this fight. For starters, during this whole time, we learn that Kawaki is still suitable to be fed to the Ten Tails, because even though he's lost the Karma Seal, he's still genetically an Otsutsuki. And we also learn that, like all the other Otsutsuki, Kawaki and Boruto can erase their chakra signatures, and most importantly, when it comes to the Karma Seal, neither one of them have been using the Karma Seal Seal properly. They just been using it for a cheap chakra boost, but in reality there's a lot more power that they could get if they use Karma properly. And even though Code has a defective Karma Seal, he can still tap into some of Ishiki's knowledge, but Boruto and Kawaki should be able to tap into the full combat knowledge and experience of the Otsutsuki who gave them the Karma Seal. And Code tells Boruto the level of power that you're using right now with Karma is not enough to have killed Boro, and the whole time Code is turning this into a teaching moment, saying that he doesn't want to have to kill Boruto because Boruto is an Otsutsuki, but he wants to see the true power that was used to kill Boro. And this quickly becomes a be careful what you wish for moment, because this entire time that Code has been playing around with Boruto and pushing Boruto to his limits, he's now awakened Momoshiki, who tells Boruto, those Byakugan drugs that Amato gave you, they were never going to stop me from being able to take over your body. All they ever did was slow down the inevitable. And Momoshiki takes over Boruto's body now, and this time he's taking it over at a point where Boruto has considerably more chakra than he did before, and this leads to Momoshiki spamming several giant Rasengans and pushing Code to a point where Ada has to tell him, be careful because you might end up getting killed. And during this point in time, when he isn't spamming giant Rasengans, he's also threatening to break all the bones in Kawaki's body, openly taunting him that he's going to take Kawaki and feed him to the Ten Tails. However, unbeknownst to Momoshiki, Naruto has been going into Sage Mode, gathering Sage Mode chakra with his clones, and Ino has now locked in on their location right as Naruto has finished his Sage Mode, and he declares to Himawari and Shikamaru that his Sage Mode now is stronger than it was at any point prior to this. And so Shikamaru and Naruto are now headed towards the battlefield, and when Momoshiki realizes that Naruto's coming, Momoshiki immediately freaks out and says that he will join forces with Code because he views Naruto as being a threat that he requires Code's help to take down. There's a strong implication of this being the case. However, as Momoshiki is about to see, things aren't exactly black and white when it comes to Naruto and this new power that he has, because what good is power when Naruto is suffering a mental nerf at the sight of seeing his son taken over by Momoshiki, and we see a very similar decrease in Naruto's stats in the same way that Minato had a huge decrease when he saw that Minato was the masked man. What we see here is that Naruto is right back at the very problem that Gaara warned him about. He says that you're not going to be able to kick the can down the road when it comes to choosing between Boruto and the ninja world. Even worse, all those pills did was buy Naruto more time that the manga tells us was only 6 months of time. Naruto went to the battlefield thinking that he'd have to fight Code, but there he was staring at the face of his son with the eyes of the Otsutsuki who Naruto himself actually helped kill 6 months ago. Just as Naruto can't bring himself to kill Boruto when Gaara told him that he needed to do so, and even when Sasuke confronted him in Boruto episode 220 saying it's cruel to allow Boruto to live with the fate that knowing that Momoshiki would take over his body, Naruto can't raise his hand against Boruto right now, and Momoshiki catches on to it, going so far as to call this the true curse of those who are powerful. They spend their entire lives seeking out power, but when the time comes for them to use it, the power that they have is never quite enough, and Momoshiki knows this is his best chance to kill Naruto, which is why he fires up a giant Rasengan and is preparing to shoot it off at Naruto. But in that moment, Kawaki's Karma Seal reawakens and he absorbs Momoshiki's jutsu, but Kawaki's appearance is now different. He now has the spokes of Ishiki's Dharma Will Eye. He has the full horn of Ishiki, and as we see when he battles Momoshiki, Kawaki is not only fighting off Momoshiki, but he's outright pressuring him, and Kawaki is now fighting with killing intent, all while Amato back in Konoha is muttering under his breath that Kawaki can't screw up the situation, which is another hint that Kawaki's planning to double cross. However, as the battle rages on, Boruto's able to regain control after Naruto saves him from an attack by Kawaki that almost kills him, and Boruto uses this moment to blow away Naruto and tell Kawaki to kill him. This whole time, Boruto lost control to Momoshiki, but he was aware of what happened, but he couldn't control his body to stop it, and the fact that he almost kills his father has troubled him. Boruto choosing to give his life to protect the village is Boruto coming full circle to the moment that the versus Momoshiki arc showed us, where Sasuke tells Boruto that both Naruto and Sasuke are ready at a moment's notice to give their life for the village, because each as a shinobi is willing to choose death for Konoha, and now Boruto's reached that conclusion at last. In the Ishiki battle, Boruto had hesitation, but now Boruto is calm of mind. He's shown that he's grown from his past mistake. All throughout Boruto Part 1, when Boruto's lowered his guard, people around him have gotten hurt. From Konohamaru taking the laser beam from Ao's Ninja Tech drone to Boruto lowering his guard when he thinks that his bluff worked on Ishiki, which resulted in Sasuke getting knocked unconscious yet again. But now he's willing to give up his own life in order to make amends for his past mistakes, and despite Naruto's screams for Kawaki to stop, Kawaki grants Boruto his wish and he kills him. Boruto episode 293 does a really good job of showing us Naruto going through the stages of grief after losing his son. We saw constantly how leading up to this that Naruto was unable to choose between his duty as Hokage and his duty as a father, and the opening of that episode shows snapshots of Naruto's memories of Boruto's childhood, including the moment that Hinata first holds Boruto and Boruto grabs Naruto's hand for the first time. For Naruto, this is a trauma so great that it hurts him to his soul. In the manga, he's shown screaming Boruto's name and in utter disbelief to a point that Shikamaru is outright shocked that Naruto's mind is shattered to a point he can't even maintain Sage mode. And these next few pages, as a lifelong Naruto fan, it's just heartbreaking to see Naruto suffer like this, because you know that this entire time the story was telling us that Naruto couldn't choose between his duty as Hokage and his duty as a father, and the cruelty of the world basically chose form. If he couldn't choose to kill his son, someone else would do it, and in this moment, nothing else matters for Naruto, not even the Hokage position, not even when Shikamaru says like, hey, you're the Hokage, Boruto chose this as a shinobi, we have a chance to kill Code right now, you need to snap out of it. Naruto will not leave his son's cold, lifeless body. Naruto is an emotional wreck, and this is so heartbreaking to see. Naruto's mental state of mind from the moment that Kawaki called his son a demon, it completely changed, because Naruto more than anyone else knows what it means to be called a demon. For Naruto to hear that about his own son and then reflect those same words back to Kawaki right before Kawaki kills Boruto, and now that he's holding his son, it just shows you how shattered Naruto is. And even when Kawaki is about to kill Code, he can't bring himself to leave Boruto's body, and this gives Code the opportunity to escape death by summoning Daemon to the battlefield and having Daemon reflect Kawaki's attack and almost kill Kawaki in the process. And even getting this information that there's another combatant on the battlefield, the only thing that Naruto can think about is his son Boruto. However, as Code leaves the battlefield, Naruto does catch a break, because while Naruto himself is at a loss of words and is struggling to wrap his head around what just happened, and the few words that he's able to say are him taking up for Kawaki, saying that even though Kawaki killed his own child, he's still not going to abandon Kawaki, because Kawaki still needs a family to support him, something Shikamaru cannot wrap his head around. Momoshiki is standing over watching the entire scene, and that's where Momoshiki makes a huge sacrifice for Boruto. Momoshiki took the remaining 18% of his genetic data to rebuild the heart and lungs of Boruto, but when Boruto mocks Momoshiki saying I've won, Momoshiki gives Boruto two warnings. Number one, he's 100% Otsuki now, which means he can be fed to 10 tails. And number two, the day where Boruto loses everything is extremely close, and that Momoshiki can't wait to see Boruto suffer. We end off with the Code Assault arc with Boruto coming back to life with his father crying, a complete reversal of how the last arc ended, where Naruto came back to life into Boruto's crying arms, and we have Code who's smirking because he's planted a claw mark on Shikamaru and now has his way into Konoha. The Omnipotence arc is the final arc of Boruto Part 1, and it fully closes the door on everything that happened in the first arc. The story of father and son officially ends in this arc, and Boruto's prophecy officially happens. We open up the arc with Boruto speaking to Amato and being told that though what Momoshiki told Boruto is correct, that Boruto's body is now 100% Otsuki, and that Momoshiki can no longer resurrect in Boruto's body, the same way that Ishiki did with Jigen's body. Amato reveals that Boruto still runs the risk of Momoshiki hijacking his consciousness and warns Boruto he needs to start back taking the Byakugan drugs, but Boruto refuses, wanting to test out controlling Momoshiki's chakra on his own. Meanwhile, Naruto's made well aware of the fact that he's no longer the strongest person in his own village, and even goes as far as to tell Kawaki that Boruto's alive and that Kawaki won't be punished for killing Naruto's son. While Boruto lies to Team 7 about the truth regarding his death, claiming that Code killed him and that Boruto came back to life using karma, Sasuke briefs Shikamaru on what he's found out, revealing that Boro's hideout in the Land of Snow is the location where the cyborgs who are stronger than Jigen were to be destroyed. But after he learns about Boruto's death and rebirth, Sasuke takes Boruto out onto the balcony to speak to him alone, much to the annoyance of Sarada, who tells Mitsuki that the two of them need to get strong enough to fight against Otsutsuki so they can prevent this from happening to Boruto ever again, because she correctly realizes she's being left out that conversation with her father because she and Mitsuki are too weak to be any benefit, and Mitsuki, when he isn't asking Sarada about her romantic feelings for Boruto, is also declaring that he feels the same about getting stronger because he wants to kill whoever it is who tried to kill Boruto. While all of this is going on, we have two major developments. We have Ada warning Code that they're not friends and that if he doesn't start pulling his weight in their relationship, that she will have Damon kill him, which goes back to the earlier points made about Ada. She's constantly reassessing the value that others provide for and constantly looking for a trade-off. Code is only as valuable to her as he is useful, and right now he's more useless than he is useful. The other thing that we see is that when Shikamaru barges in on Amato while he's working on the cyborg he calls a great ally to Konoha, Shikamaru has a lot of questions. Namely, he wants to know why Amato restored Kawaki's karma without Kawaki's consent and why he didn't alert Naruto and Shikamaru to what it was he was planning. What we see here is that whereas Naruto is busy trying to make Kawaki still feel at home, like he's a part of Konoha, and Naruto struggling with his own trauma that comes from seeing his son die, and Naruto no longer being the strongest person in the village, Shikamaru is making an aggressive play, just like he did when he saw Naruto wasn't in the village after the Jigen fight, and Shikamaru acted as Hokage then. He's acting like a Hokage now. And Shikamaru is pressing Amato for answers and where his true loyalties lie. But when this happens, Code emerges from his claw marks to the place on Shikamaru's back, and this is where we see that big brain IQ from Shikamaru. Everything was all a trap by Shikamaru. In fact, it was Shikamaru running 3 traps simultaneously. The first trap was to get Amato to confirm Shikamaru's suspicion that he had for the last few arcs, which is that everything has gone according to Amato's plan. Whereas everyone else was blown back by the threat of Ishiki placing karma on Kawaki, Shikamaru was the one who stopped and said that if he was this willing to make a plan this detailed that it took many years to pull off, what's to say he isn't playing all of us right now, including taking advantage of Naruto's naive nature to trust people and give second chances. The second trap was Shikamaru had a suspicion that Code was working with a third person, with the second person being Damon, and he wanted to confirm if there was a third party who could listen in on their conversations and knew that Code had already marked him with the claw mark. And the third trap was set specifically for Code, who would be drawn into this isolated area, and with the Amato being used as bait, Shikamaru will unleash Delta, whose body has been upgraded by Amato in order to fight Code, and hoping to bring down Code in a way where he has complete control of the situation, and in particular of the damage that was spilled out because they're in an isolated area. This is classic Shikamaru, but what we see here is that Shikamaru did not factor in Ada and her powers because it was an unknown variable to him. The moment that Code brings Ada through one of his claw marks, Shikamaru quickly finds out that just like Code, he cannot attack Ada, and Amato explains to him that if you try to use lethal force against Ada because of the conflicting commands that your heart is getting from your brain will end up destroying itself if you try to inflict that damage onto Ada. And Shikamaru realizes that this is a dangerous opponent even though she hasn't lifted a finger, and this leads to Shikamaru telling Ino via the Yamanaka clan's hidden jutsu telepathically to start changing the combination locks and keep Naruto and Sasuke away from Ada because of how dangerous she is. And Shikamaru gets confirmation that Ada cannot hear anything that's going on when they talk telepathically. And upon seeing that Code is torturing Amato with the intention to have Amato remove Code's limiters, Shikamaru quickly makes a deal with Ada saying, hey, come to Konoha and I'll get you in position where you can start a relationship with Kawaki. It'd be a lot easier if you work with us. Ada thinks about it for a moment. She doesn't say yes or no to it. And as Shikamaru is trying to buy time, Amato calls out Shikamaru basically saying, I know what you're trying to do, stalling for time because you want to get Kawaki here because Kawaki's one of the people immune to Ada, and you're hoping for a best case scenario that Kawaki, Ada, and Code are all killed off. I can't let you do that because I still need Kawaki. But before they can go any further in their back and forth mentally. Code kicks Amato through the claw marks and Ada shows another one of her powers. She orders Delta, who is under her control because Delta has been turned into a simp for her. She says, Delta, take care of Shikamaru for me. Delta attacks Shikamaru and that forces Shikamaru to break the shadow paralysis jutsu that he has on Ada. And since it's an indirect attack, it was something that could land on Ada. And Ada drops a line saying that she thanks Shikamaru for his considered proposal, open up the door for her to take him up on the offer later on. In the aftermath of this, Amato does take Code's limiters off, so now Code has a power level that goes beyond that of Jigen's, but Amato, being the quick-witted fellow that he is, immediately tells Ada, hey, I've got a trump card that will make us end good with Konoha. Don't let this guy kill me. And before Amato can start talking things over Ada any further, Code tries to kill Amato. Ada tells Code to stand down. Code will not listen, so Ada sicks Damon onto Code, and Code quickly finds out that while he might be stronger than Jigen, so too is Damon, and Damon is significantly stronger than Jigen, and Damon makes light work out of Code in the process, beating Code badly enough that Code literally has to retreat after taking a few hits, but not before Code makes a promise that the next time he sees Ada, he's going to have already fed Boruto Kawaki to the Ten Tails, which means he'd be an Otsuki, be immune to her charm and control powers, and if he is immune, if he doesn't still have feelings for her, he will kill her. And this is what leads to Ada telling Amato to spill the beans on what makes him so valuable, and Amato tells us that he has a special shutdown code programmed into Kawaki's body the same way he has one built into Delta's body, and that he's using that as leverage against Konoha. But while they're having this conversation, Code is taking a page out of the Sage of Six Paths book. He's gone to the Ten Tails, and just as the Sage of Six Paths used the creation of all things to break apart the Ten Tails into the 9 Biju, Code's done a similar thing with the Ten Tails by using his claw marks and his karma seal to break apart the Ten Tails into miniature Ten Tails soldiers that are imbued with Code's chakra that can also use his claw mark teleportation jutsu. Meanwhile, after Shikamaru is brought up to speed on what happens with Amato, Shikamaru informs Kawaki that he and Team 7 will be living with Ada inside of a house inside the village, and that due to Ada's feelings for Kawaki, it is important that they're on their best behavior because they need Ada as an ally. However, Kawaki is ice cold and focused solely on Boruto because this is the first time that Boruto and Kawaki are in the same room together since Kawaki successfully killed Boruto, and we learn that Momoshiki is continuing to manifest outside of Boruto's body. He's in the Hokage office right there with Boruto, with the only people made aware of it are Sasuke and Kawaki, who can sense that something's happened. And the entire time leading up to this, Momoshiki's been gaslighting Boruto. He's telling Boruto, don't make promises to your mother who's crying in front of you, worried that you're going to die again. Don't tell her that you're going to come back home when you can't promise this. And Momoshiki tells him that the time for Boruto to lose everything, it is close at hand. It's very close at hand. And he's driving Boruto crazy, telling him that when this moment comes, he will willingly give up control to Momoshiki. So the entire time that Boruto and Kawaki are spending time in this house together, Boruto has this information in the back of his mind, and by the time that Ada shows up with Damon, Damon quickly establishes his dominance by letting Boruto and Kawaki know he's the strongest person in the household at this point in time by one-shotting Boruto and Kawaki. And Naruto tells Amato to cut all the games and to tell the truth without holding back anymore, and Shikamaru uses Ada as a fact check on Amato in real time, and we come back full circle to the theme that the sins of the father are paid for by the child. Amato's reason for everything that he's done has been for his daughter Akibi, who died 16 years ago to an unknown disease. Amato dove into science and cloning technology out of grief, looking for a way to bring his daughter back to life, but with each clone that he made, it resulted in the same problem. The clone had his daughter's voice, it had her face, it had her memories, but not her personality or her soul, which led to Amato joining Jigen because he promised to reunite him with his daughter by placing the soul of Akibi into her clone Delta. That explains why Delta is the only car in her who has multiple bodies, because as we're told, Amato had multiple failed attempts at cloning his daughter. Amato reveals that he planned to use Kawaki's karma to place his daughter's genetics into Delta's body because he loaded Kawaki's karma with Akibi's genetics, but when Kawaki asks if by doing so this will make another Otsutsuki, Amato reveals that he can't be certain, but this is his only hope. And you can tell from the way that Naruto's drawn that this struck a nerve with him because he's literally fresh off of having his own son killed in front of him. So out of all the people in the room, he knows Amato's pain the most. However, as Amato explains the origins of the Otsutsuki god and how all the various abilities that we've seen, Jigen and Ishiki, Kawaki, Code, Ada, and Damon, all these abilities are actually Shinjutsu that come from fragments of Shibai's DNA. Momoshiki manifests outside of Boruto and begins to start giving us play-by-play commentary. Momoshiki says that Amato is right about what he's saying, that there is no Otsutsuki named Shibai who transcended the cycle of life, death, and rebirth by ascending to a higher level where he no longer needs the karma seal. He just exists in another dimension with power so great that screaming causes earthquakes and thunderstorms, waving his arms makes windstorms, and all the ninjutsu we saw in the 72 volumes of Naruto are mere cheap imitations of powers that Shibai possesses via Shinjutsu. However, it's during Boruto's conversation with Momoshiki that we see there are other side effects that are occurring because Boruto's able to use Momoshiki's Byakugan to see a vision of the future where Konoha Shinobi are chasing someone. Team 10 appear to be fighting Boruto, and it makes Ada raise an eyebrow at Boruto because she can see that something is wrong. And over the next few days, she isn't going to be the only one who realizes that something isn't right because Kawaki flat out tells Boruto he knows that he's been speaking to Momoshiki and that he can sense Momoshiki's presence. From Kawaki's perspective, this makes sense. People just don't come back from the dead. Yet here it is Boruto doing that and hiding that he's talking to Momoshiki. While Boruto and Kawaki are arguing, Shikamaru gives Sumire and Sarada the mission to work together to kill Ada because due to unknown reasons, each of them are immune to her Shinjutsu and thus are pretending like they are still affected when in reality they aren't. And we see Sarada offer Ada what looks like a genuine offer of friendship. But before we can see how this will progress, Kawaki storms off, and before anyone can stop him, he shrinks himself down using Shinjutsu and vanishes. However, Boruto chooses to stick to the mission, assuming that Kawaki is just being his usual self, and escorts Ada into Konoha. And while Damon is complaining about the lack of strong fighters in Konoha, Damon suddenly perks up, but not because Boruto is singing the praises of Naruto and Sasuke as people who could beat Damon, which they can't, but that speaks how highly to how Boruto believes in them despite losing Kurama and the Rinnegan. But instead, Damon is worked up because the power that he senses comes from the most unlikely of people, Himawari Uzumaki. Damon tries to throw a punch at Himawari, saying it should be easy for her, but he's shocked to learn that she isn't a fighter, yet Damon declares there's a giant power inside of Himawari, which is our first sign that she might actually have Otsutsuki level potential, and that the scene from the one-shot manga chapter the day Naruto became Hokage, where she simultaneously shuts down all of Naruto and Kurama's chakra points, wasn't a gag scene. However, unbeknownst to them, Kawaki has appeared inside of Naruto's house for the third most heartbreaking scene of Boruto Part 1. And Kawaki's monologue confirms Amato and Shikamaru's suspicion. Kawaki is obsessed with Naruto, saying that before Naruto, he didn't know a father's love. He didn't have a reason to live, and that there was nothing Kawaki wouldn't do for Naruto, even if it meant dying. And as Kawaki begins talking about how shinobi are all destined to die and how he doesn't want Naruto to die, but he will do anything to protect Naruto from the Otsutsuki clan, you see Hinata and that primal instinct that she has that there's a predator inside of her home that is threatening her child, because Kawaki is talking about killing the Otsutsuki clan and Naruto. The light bulb has not gone off in his head yet, but Hinata knows that Kawaki is talking about Boruto, and before Naruto can do anything, she slaps Kawaki in the face. And when Naruto puts everything together, as Kawaki says he's going to kill Boruto, Naruto tells him, knowing full well that Kawaki can kill him in the process, that if you're going to kill my son, you're going to have to kill me. And what makes this so heartbreaking is the fact that, number one, Naruto doesn't have the power to protect his wife or protect his son Boruto, but we also see that Naruto is still suffering from some of the PTSD that comes from having seen Kawaki kill Boruto, because he's basically saying right here that if you're going to kill my son, I don't want to live in a world where my son's not going to be alive. You're going to have to kill me before you kill my child. I'm not going through this again. And as Kawaki seals away Naruto and Hinata to keep them out of the way, he tells Naruto, after this is all said and done, and after I kill Boruto, if you want to kill me, feel free to do so. And Kawaki at this point lets his chakra get sent so he can send off a warning shot to Boruto, letting him know, I'm at your parents' house, come and find me. This one scene proves Shikamaru correct, that Naruto made a mistake by projecting his past experiences as a Jinchuriki onto Kawaki, because while they are similar, they are not the same, and it's because their circumstances are different. When Shikamaru asks Ada to confirm what happened to Naruto, Ada reveals that she doesn't know what jutsu Kawaki used, but apparently Naruto and Hinata are swallowed up in a black void, and she says that she thinks that Kawaki is going to try and kill Boruto again, and Boruto tries to warn Sarada when Kawaki starts talking that Kawaki will kill her, but because Sarada steps in the way, Kawaki tries to cut her head off and Boruto ends up getting his eye slashed, which that leads to Kawaki attempting to kill Boruto and Sarada, but this time he's stopped by Shikamaru's Shadow Possession Jutsu and Mitsuki's Body Modification Jutsu, and for good measure, he's got Sasuke putting a sword to his neck saying if Kawaki attempts to resist, Sasuke will cut his head off, but thankfully for Kawaki, Momoshiki takes over Boruto's body and rescues Kawaki. Now, Momoshiki does this for a couple of reasons. Number one, he needs Kawaki alive so he can feed him to the 10 tails to harvest a chakra fruit. And number two, he's using this as an opportunity to gaslight Boruto, because he's telling Boruto before he gives back control to his body that the time for Boruto to lose everything has now begun, and as Kawaki's running away from the village, everyone is chasing down Kawaki with the intention of potentially having to kill him, because they're operating under the assumption that he's either killed Naruto or he's done something terrible to Naruto and he's basically committed an act of treason. And when Shikamaru gets contacted by Amato with Amato saying like, hey, don't do anything to Kawaki, don't kill him, I have a shutdown code, Shikamaru goes, look, it's too late, I wish I would have known that earlier, but Kawaki is an enemy of Konoha. If he resists, we will kill him. And this leads to Ada flying off to find Kawaki the moment that he resizes himself, and it's at this point that everything changes. Kawaki correctly tells Ada that if Boruto had been anyone else's son except for Naruto's son, the son of the 7th Hokage, there would be no hesitation by any of the people in Konoha to assassinate Boruto because he is a threat to the ninja world. However, because he is Naruto's son, none of them can bring themselves to do it, and he's the bad guy for wanting to do so. And you can tell that Kawaki right now is actually doing some projection, because Kawaki's basically saying if Boruto were me, if he were an outsider, if he had no ties to Konoha, they would try to kill him because they're trying to kill me without even getting my side of the story for what it is that I'm trying to do. Why does it have to be Boruto? Why does Boruto get all the breaks that I'm not getting? And this leads to Ada activating the Omnipotence Shinjutsu, the power inside of her that Momoshiki tells us later on that she's not able to fully control because it is the de facto ultimate Shinjutsu for the Otsutsuki clan that grants wishes, turning wishes into reality. This is how the Otsutsuki are able to create entire planets. And so what Ada does is she shoots off chakra that goes through the center of the earth, and the chakra rings themselves go out into outer space, and everyone in every dimension all across the planet itself now believes that Kawaki is the son of Naruto and Boruto is the outsider. And once Kawaki realizes what's happened, Kawaki tells Ada, tell everyone that Boruto killed Naruto, because Kawaki understands these people, they can't see that I'm a cyborg. They think that Boruto is the one who turned on Naruto. This is the only chance I'm gonna have for these people to kill Boruto, and Kawaki takes it. And while Boruto finds himself trying to fight off all the people who used to be his allies and try not to use any lethal force against them, even Sasuke finds himself affected by the Shinjutsu, and you have Sarada in utter despair watching as Sage Mode Mitsuki is chasing after Boruto and her own father is talking about killing Boruto. Sarada awakens her Mangekyo Sharingan, and in this moment she feels that much despair that as her eyes are reflected into Sasuke's, she's crying to Sasuke saying, save Boruto. And this has led to some people calling this a bit of bad writing and a retcon in regards to Sarada's Mangekyo Sharingan. I reckon recommend checking out the video I have titled Stardust Mangekyo Sharingan is not bad writing. This does not retcon anything that happens in the series itself. If you still think that death is the only thing that awakens the Mangekyo, you really need to watch that video. However, because Sarada is able to reach Sasuke, Sasuke is able to push through the omnipotent Shinjutsu, telling him to accept that Boruto is not his student because his memory has Kawaki being his student. Sasuke takes his daughter's word at face value and he saves Boruto and takes Boruto out of the village. And after he and Boruto are running for an entire day and night, Ada finally catches up to them and Ada apologizes to Boruto about what happened. And Sasuke reveals to us that he can sense Momoshiki inside of Boruto. He knows this shouldn't be the case and he knows that Kawaki should be the one with Sasuke's headband, and yet it's Boruto. But Sasuke reveals he's scared of his memories. And the reason why he's scared of his memories is that everything that he believes to be reality, he now sees that he can't trust those memories because Ada and Boruto are openly talking about the fact that everyone's memories have been swapped. And Sasuke still having to say things like, if you're truly Naruto's son, you can overcome the situation that's in front of you where everyone hates you, because that's what Naruto had to overcome. And Momoshiki right now is in the process of freaking out because Momoshiki was counting on Boruto to fall into despair, but because Boruto has Sasuke right there with him, providing him with support, Boruto is able to regain his mental strength. He says that as the son of the 7th Hokage, the grandson of the 4th Hokage, and as a half Hyuga himself, he's not only going to overcome everything that has challenged him, but he's also going to make right with the bond that he has with Kawaki that has now been severed because of what's gone on. And we complete the story of Boruto Naruto Next Generations as it being the story of father and son. The father's now been sealed away and it's now transitioned into just being the son story. And we end the story of Boruto Uzumaki, the boy who had everything and slowly lost it all. And we now transition over to the story of just Boruto, the boy who's even lost his last name, Uzumaki, who is now returning back to the Hidden Leaf Village to try and reclaim everything he's lost, which that takes place in Boruto 2 Blue Vortex, which you can check out by checking out the playlist here on the screen right now.